Welcome to Sally Fox audiobook, Naruto I Kill, I Loot, I Ascend, chapter 124 to 149, Hyuga Aaron's Sudden Art. 1,157 words. There were still over 60,000 experience points left. Hyuga Aaron scanned through his skills and finally fixed his gaze on Demon Back. This was a state-type skill. Every time it was activated, all of his physical attributes increased. He remembered clearly that on the forums, this skill was considered a newbie god-tier skill. Even though he had long since passed the beginner stage, it was still extremely useful to him. The most broken part was actually Demon Brain, that was the true newbie miracle skill. It allowed players to create monsters themselves and farm experience. Even if you couldn't beat anyone early on, you could just grind it home until you became a god. And once Demon Back and Demon Brain were both maxed out, they could fuse into a state skill called Demon Person. Demon Person inherited the traits of both Demon Brain and Demon Back and was an enhanced version at that. Demon Person, that's something you grind Cloud Ninja for. Cloud Ninja dropped martial arts type skills. They were extremely popular in the early game, remained top tier in the mid game, but in the late game you had to transition. Pure martial builds just couldn't keep up with the meta anymore. But right now? Max Demon Back for me. Martial skills shared a common trait in the early game. Low EXP requirements. As if I'm short on experience. Demon Back, LV1, EXP, 0 out of 100, trait, none. Demon Back, LV2, EXP, 0/200, trait, none. Demon Back, LV4, EXP, 0 out of 400, trait, none. Demon Back, LV8, EXP, 0/7400, trait, none. Demon Back, LV9, EXP, 0/14800, trait, none. Demon Back, LV10, EXP, max, trait, selectable. Talent, greatly enhances your martial combat aptitude. Fortified, your body becomes as tough as bronze walls and iron ramparts. Evolution, continuous intense battles will cause your strength to grow. Talent type? What's the point of boosting martial aptitude for a ninja? I'm not playing King of Fighters. Hyuga Aaron discarded the first option without hesitation. The second was clearly a defense option, but his chakra-based defense, enhanced by nin traits, was already more than sufficient. That left only evolution. Intense battles. Hyuga Aaron looked visibly displeased. He liked one-shotting enemies. He didn't want drawn-out, intense battles. Demon Back, LV10, trait selected, evolution. This time, no memories flooded into his mind. Instead, his body suddenly expanded. The faintly visible muscles beneath his skin instantly became rock-solid, like carved stone. He went from looking lean and soft to a straight-up muscle monster. Hyuga Aaron, did you change? Inazuka stared at him in shock. Your imagination, Hyuga Aaron shot him a sideways glance. That's absolutely not imagination, hey. Inazuka vehemently denied it. Your whole art style changed. Woof. The little black dog on his head nodded in agreement. This was definitely not an illusion. If not for the unchanged face, he would never believe this was Hyuga Aaron. Hyuga Aaron gave him a look that said, what a bumpkin. I just increased my purity a bit. Even your tone of voice changed. From a normal teenage voice, it had become much deeper and thicker. Kid, Hyuga Aaron clenched his fist impatiently. Do you want to experience my purity? I just completed a ninjutsu, that's all. Oh. I see, Inazuka nodded as if enlightened. Like hell it is. Your way of speaking is completely different now. What kind of ninjutsu changed a person this much? This was basically a different human being. You are Hyuga Aaron? Hiruzen Sarutobi stared at the sharp-featured youth before him. Beneath the traditional Hyuga robes, he could vaguely see explosively bulging muscles. He looked down at the photo in the ninja file. A clean, delicate-looking youth. His eyelid twitched. Are you sure these are the same person? This wasn't just a different face. The entire art style was wrong. This Hyuga Eren didn't look like a shinobi of the ninja world at all. He looked like some monster about to enter a brutal underground death tournament. The Youth Division. Okage-sama, don't make such a fuss, Hyuga Eren said, glancing sideways at Hiruzen. I simply completed a self-created ninjutsu. That's why I look like this. He clenched his fist hard. His muscles instantly swelled, tearing his clothes apart. Turning around, he revealed his back, where bulging muscles formed the visage of a ferocious demon. He tilted his head slightly and pointed at the demon face on his back. This is my new taijutsu demon back. The art style is completely wrong. Hiruzen slammed both hands on the desk and roared. You should go next door and enter a deathmatch tournament. Realizing he'd lost his composure, Hiruzen coughed twice. In any case, welcome back to Konoha, Hyuga Eren. Hyuga Eren nodded, the muscles on his body twitching. Put some clothes on first. Hiruzen's roar echoed through the entire Hokage's office. Hyuga Eren walked out shirtless, pushing the door open and smacking his lips. So troublesome. Passing shinobi immediately began whispering. He came out of the Hokage's office without a shirt. I heard the Hokage has some unspeakable hobbies. Wait, really? Tell me more. Still, those muscles, with that face, yeah, I get it. Some female ninja even blushed, sneaking glances at Hyuga Eren. Honestly, they could kind of understand the Hokage's preferences. Hiruzen Sarutobi's reputation was plummeting at record speed. Completely unaware that his reputation was being brutally assassinated, Hiruzen was studying Hyuga Eren's file. He's completely fallen out with the Hyuga main house. But being able to obtain massive intelligence in Amigakure, his capability is unquestionable. Still, why did Danzo take Hyuga Eren under his wing? That part, Hiruzen truly couldn't understand. A Hyuga branch member had no secrets in front of the main house, he didn't even dare let them enter ANBU. Yet Danzo, of all people, had accepted Hyuga Eren into root. What am I missing here? Hiruzen took a puff of his pipe, exhaling a cloud of smoke. Danzo didn't tell him everything. For example, Hyuga Eren's original undercover mission had been reassigned by Danzo to the Uchiha. Danzo had once again, persecuted the Uchiha. Hiruzen only learned the full story after Hyuga Eren returned. Because of Danzo's actions, Hyuga Eren's mission couldn't even be officially recorded. Hiruzen had personally suppressed it. Danzo. Hiruzen slowly closed his eyes. Danzo was slipping beyond his control. Upon hearing that Hyuga Eren had returned to the village, Nawaki immediately skipped class and ran to the area beneath the Hokage Tower, waiting for his big brother to come down. When Hyuga Eren finally walked up to him, he slapped a hand on Nawaki's shoulder. Nawaki, what are you staring at? Nawaki's body stiffened slightly. Looking at the muscular youth before him, he forced out an awkward yet polite smile. And you are? You can read 96 plus chapters ahead on Patreon if you're interested. Patreon.com/canonbreaker. Sparkles bonus chapter goals. Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. Chapter 125, just when life settles down, someone always comes to stir things up. 1,200 words. After Hyuga Eren repeatedly proved it, Nawaki finally believed that the muscle-packed monster standing in front of him really was his big brother, Hyuga Eren. Nawaki's eyes immediately lit up so brightly that Eren subconsciously took half a step back. Is this what a true powerhouse looks like? Wow, big bro, how did you train those biceps? Wow, big bro, your back muscles can actually form a face. Veins began to throb on Hyuga Eren's forehead. He grabbed Nawaki by the head. Shut up! And hurled him straight into the distance. From far away, Nawaki's voice could still be heard. I'll be back. What are you, Team Rocket or Grey Wolf? Hyuga Eren rubbed his temples, pulled a spare set of clothes from his inventory, and put them on. He really hadn't expected Demon back to remodel his body this much. The only saving grace was that a max-level demon back didn't consume chakra at all. Even the evolution trait was entirely passive. Intense combat, becoming the strongest life form? He didn't want to go full muscle brain build. And besides, moderate muscles attract the opposite sex. Excessive bodybuilding attracts the same sex. He didn't want that. Hyuga Aaron eventually finished his debriefing and received the rewards he deserved. That said, this mission couldn't be written into his official record. As for why those who knew, knew. Those who didn't, he wasn't about to explain. What puzzled him was that during the process, Hiruzen Sarutobi kept looking at him like his eyes weren't eyes and his nose wasn't a nose. Had he offended him somehow? Hyuga Aaron scratched his head and decided not to dwell on it. He wasn't an Uchiha, no need to worry about offending the Hokage. When it came to not being an Uchiha, Hiruzen was actually a pretty decent Hokage. In any case, it wouldn't affect him. Mission reward plus compensation, a full 2 million ryo. Enough to rent a decent place. Not like last time, where the moment he moved in he felt like his life was already over. However, when Hyuga Aaron applied for promotion to Chunin, Hiruzen rejected him. Konoha Shinobi had to pass the Chunin exams to become Chunin. The exams had never stopped, only changed form. Due to the chaotic situation, they had gone from open exams involving multiple villages to internal Konoha-only examinations. Unfortunately for Hyuga Aaron, he had missed last year's exam. At the time, he was still in Amigakure and couldn't return in time. Which meant he'd have to wait for this year's exam. He'd already mixed his way up to Chunin level in Amigakure, and if he hadn't slipped up and exposed himself, he might have even reached Jonin. Now it was early year 37. Hyuga Aaron looked at Konoha, blanketed in white snow. This region had normal seasons, unlike Amigakure, where it rained year-round and snow was non-existent. Big bro, this year's Chunin exam will be rivals. Nowaki said, grinning as he wiped his nose. His time at the Ninja Academy was down to half a semester. After graduation, he'd also be eligible for this year's exam. Let's see you stop stepping on explosive tags first. Hyuga Aaron patted Nowaki's shoulder. I look forward to it. The two of them were house hunting. Housing in Konoha was a scarce resource. Aside from clan compounds, there weren't many homes available to outsiders. The outside world was simply too chaotic. For safety, people broke their backs trying to move into Konoha. No matter how turbulent the world became, Konoha stood firm. Anyone with even a little money tried to squeeze their way in. After a full day, they'd basically seen all available houses. In the end, Hyuga Aaron settled on a place with a courtyard and a basement. 5,000 ryo per month, said the landlord, a smiling middle-aged man. Judging by his belly, he was living quite well. Well, he was doing real estate in Konoha. Hyuga Aaron agreed immediately. 5,000 was a fair price for this place. Just as they were finalizing things, a figure jogged up to Nowaki and bowed his head. Big brother Nowaki. Oh, Sagara, what are you doing here? Nowaki replied cheerfully. This is my home. The landlord chuckled. Didn't expect you two to know Sagara. Hyuga Aaron quietly took a step back. Not my business. Don't know him. Absolutely don't know him. He'd already seen the landlord's face darken. Big brother? What kind of title was that? Dad, this is the Ninja Academy's apex, the strongest fist, Big Brother Nowaki. What kind of ridiculous nickname is that? Nowaki scratched his head shyly. Why are you getting embarrassed? You know it's cringe too, don't you? Hyuga Aaron screamed internally. Oh, so it's Lord Nowaki. The landlord's previously dark smile instantly brightened, glowing with warmth. Thank goodness, no rent hike. Hyuga Aaron wiped cold sweat from his forehead. Nowaki's name really carried weight. My son's been in your care, the landlord said respectfully. He didn't understand the whole Big Brother or Apex thing, but he knew one fact clearly. Nowaki, the first Hokage's grandson. A big shot in Konoha. He never imagined his kid from the Ninja Academy could be connected to someone like this. Just call me Nawaki, Nawaki said brightly, completely unaware of the landlord's scheming thoughts. I can knock 2,000 off the rent. Really? Hyuga Eren raised his voice. Before the man could react, Eren grabbed his hand. Thank you so much. No shame. He, too, was an unscrupulous adult inside. The landlord's smile stiffened. He was trying to curry favor with Nawaki, not this Hyuga. With the house settled, Hyuga Eren sat on the wooden platform outside, looking at the pond in the courtyard where fish swam lazily. 3,000 Ryo for this place. What a steal. Nawaki had already left, it was time for the academy to let out. Tsunade was actually in the village right now. If Nawaki got caught skipping class, he'd be dead meat. Finally home, Hyuga Eren murmured, watching the sun sink into dusk. This moment really needed a cup of tea. Too bad he hadn't bought anything yet. The next morning, Hyuga Eren was woken by the doorbell. Wearing a bathrobe, he shuffled to the door and opened it. Hyuga Dima stood outside. What a bloodhound! Eren had just moved in and he'd already found the place. Hyuga Dima hesitated as he looked at the youth before him, the thick muscles stretched the fabric tight. Sorry. Wrong door. Have a nice day. Bang! The door slammed shut. That attitude felt oddly familiar. Hyuga Dima stared at the door. This is the place, though. The Hyuga clan had received word immediately when Hyuga Eren returned to the village and rented a house. But that person just now wasn't Hyuga Eren. Or was he? After a moment of thought, Hyuga Dima suddenly realized. Their faces were similar. Just that the once delicate features had become more sharply defined. Like someone had wandered in from the wrong art style. It was him. You little brat. Open the door. You can read 96 plus chapters ahead on Patreon if you're interested. Patreon.com/canonbreaker. Sparkles bonus chapter goals Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. Chapter 126, Orders from the Hyuga clan, and the Arrival of Root. 1,231 words. It hasn't been easy for the Hyuga clan to maintain its position in Konoha. It's something upheld through the joint efforts of the main house and the branch house. The main house develops the Hyuga clan, while the branch house protects the main house. This has always been the guiding principle of Hyuga prosperity. Hyuga Dima spoke earnestly, trying his best to persuade Hyuga Eren. Meanwhile, Eren's eyes were unfocused, clearly lost in thought. He still had over 30,000 experience points left. He planned to keep them in reserve, just in case. A full-state recovery from leveling up could sometimes completely turn the tide of battle. At his current level, leveling up required more than 20,000 experience. 2 more levels and he would complete his awakening, unlocking his own nin ability. His plan was to save up to 50,000 experience and jump straight to level 36. The only unknown was how much strength that awakened nin ability would actually give him. Right now, he could barely qualify as Jonin level. His main shortcomings were experience and ninjutsu variety. Genjutsu also needed attention. He remembered that in-release synthesis required 10 max-level genjutsu skills. Hyuga Dima's droning voice continued in his ears, like a buzzing fly. Are you even listening to me? Hyuga Dima slammed his palm onto the table, splashing tea out of the cup. Hyuga Eren snapped back to attention and yawned. I say, Elder Dima, has the main house really ever thought about the branch house? Hyuga Dima's smile froze. The branch house protects the main house. You keep repeating the same line, Eren interrupted. Can't you try something new? Seeing Hyuga Dima momentarily speechless, Eren continued calmly. That kind of talk is fine if you're brainwashing yourself. Don't use it on me. The main house treats the branch house well, Hyuga Dima said heavily. As an elder of the branch house, thoroughly indoctrinated over many years, he naturally stood on the side of the main house. Well, maybe they do, Aaron replied. But what does that have to do with me? What kindness have I ever received from the main house? Hyuga Dima fell silent. The main house arranged everything for the branch house, from daily life to marriage. The elderly were cared for, the young were raised. In that sense, the Hyuga clan had done everything. All the branch house had to do was fulfill their duty as obedient servants. But Hyuga Aaron was an outlier. From childhood, he had lived off his parents' inheritance, rejecting every benefit provided by the Hyuga clan. This open defiance of the main house had been suppressed by Hyuga Dima for years, keeping it from reaching the main house's ears. But once Aaron became a ninja, it was no longer something Dima could hide. The only reason Dima could still sit here talking was because he genuinely looked after Aaron in the past. Otherwise, Aaron wasn't exactly the type to respect elders. But there is no but, Aaron cut him off. I don't owe the main house anything, and I don't need to bow my head and live as their servant. And if the main house and branch house share the same blood, why must one be master and the other slave? Aaron sneered. Is the caged bird seal really to protect the Byakugan? Or is it to ensure we can never rise up? Impudent! The shout didn't come from Hyuga Dima. Figures burst out from hidden corners, one after another. Hyuga ninjas surrounded Aaron completely. The man at the front glared at him furiously. Do you realize how treasonous what you're saying is, Hyuga Aaron? Hyuga Dima slowly closed his eyes. He had done everything he could to persuade Aaron, but Aaron hadn't budged at all. What came next was no longer within his control. Aaron let out a short laugh. Even when you come to arrest me, you send branch house members. What, are all the main house people dead? He looked at the leading branch house ninja. What exactly are you angry about? That I told the truth? The man took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing emotions that were part anger, part something else. The main house orders you to return and report. Seeing that the man didn't refute his words, Aaron already knew this person, too, harbored dissatisfaction with the Hyuga clan. Without even using the Byakugan, Aaron could sense through Nin perception that this man was a Jonin. A branch house Jonin was, by definition, a prodigy. They had endured repeated oppression from the main house, yet ultimately chose to obediently remain dogs. Return with you? Surrounded by Hyuga ninja, Aaron calmly lifted his teacup. Judging his strength, he might not be able to kill them all, but leaving calmly was absolutely possible. Of course he was relaxed. And besides, did you ask them? The moment his words fell, masked figures appeared inside the room. Weapons were drawn, pointed straight at the Hyuga members. ANBU, the Hyuga Jonin frowned. Why was ANBU here? This is an internal matter of the Hyuga clan. Sorry, came the reply. We have orders. Hyuga Aaron must assist us. You have no authority to take him. The Hyuga Jonin sighed helplessly. With ANBU involved, there was no way he could take Aaron. He stared deeply at Aaron. Hyuga Aaron, you can't escape. The caged bird seal existed to prevent any Hyuga from escaping. The main house was the cage. The branch house were birds within it, never to break free. Aaron smiled faintly at him. The group left, taking Hyuga Dima with them. Which raised a question in Aaron's mind. How had they entered in the first place? This time, he had completely torn his face off with the Hyuga main house. His previous clashes with Hyuga Hayashi could still be dismissed as childish conflict. But openly rejecting the main house's orders like this meant tearing away the last layer of pretense. The main house knew Aaron wouldn't immediately return, which was why they'd sent people to seize him. Hyuga Dima had volunteered to try persuading him, but it had failed completely. What they hadn't expected was ANBU stepping in to protect Aaron. Of course, that was because they didn't know about Root. Root now only had a handful of members left. They still existed, but without elites, so they hid themselves even more carefully. Aaron looked at the Root member leading them. There were no obvious distinguishing features. Root members at this time weren't famous, and Aaron couldn't tell who this was. Are you taking me to the root base? Eren asked. The root operative shook his head. Lord Danzo has issued orders. We are to protect you and deliver your first assignment. He raised his hand, and the other root ninja vanished instantly. I will lead you. Your task is to eliminate Konoha's missing nin. He clapped his hands. Another root ninja appeared, holding clothing and a mask. This is your uniform and mask. You may choose your own codename. Eren took the mask and outfit. The red patterns on the mask resembled a demon. He put it on, hiding his face. From the demon mask's eye sockets, only a pair of pale Byakugan eyes were visible. Call me player. You can read 96 plus chapters ahead on Patreon if you're interested. Patreon.com/canonbreaker. Sparkles bonus chapter goals. Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. Chapter 127. The Uchiha must have dug up Danzo's ancestral graves. 1195 words. I think I finally know why the Hyuga clan can never become root members and why there are so few of them in ANBU. Hyuga Eren held up a small mirror, looking at his masked reflection. The mask's eye holes were pitch black, making the stark white of his Byakugan painfully obvious. On a mission like this, as long as even one person survived, the enemy could immediately lock onto the Hyuga clan. Those white pupils, no one else in the shinobi world had them. If something happened, the Hyuga would be the first suspects every single time. No wonder the Hyuga clan wasn't enthusiastic about sending people into ANBU. Just how many black pots would they end up carrying? The root operative beside him, codename Crow, twitched at the corner of his mouth. No, seriously. What kind of ninja brings a mirror on a mission? The two of them moved rapidly through the forest, trees blurring past on either side. Despite their speed, they made no sound at all. Even Crow couldn't help but admire Eren's movement. Crow was traveling at a full jonin pace, yet Eren, clearly still registered as a genin, kept up effortlessly. And he was relaxed enough to check himself in a mirror. That alone proved Eren's strength was nowhere near as simple as it looked. Be careful, Crow said in a low voice. Mirror reflections can expose our position. Yeah. Eren waved a hand and finally put the mirror away. He was actually quite satisfied with the root combat uniform except for one thing. His muscles stretched the outfit tight, making it look. And judging by the trajectory, the effects of Ogre Back were only going to get worse. He was only 13. If he grew another 2 years, would his muscles keep growing too? Eren sank into silent distress. We're here, Crow said suddenly, stopping atop a tree. Eren flipped upside down, hanging from a branch beside him. They were hidden within the forest. Beyond the tree line lay a wide lake. Eren looked at the figures in the distance and his mouth twitched. Don't tell me, those are the targets. Crow didn't answer directly. Instead, he spoke in a flat, emotionless tone. Root and ANBU are different. Root members have no names and no emotions. No future. We exist for one purpose only, completing the orders from above. That was answer enough. Those people by the lake really were the targets. Ahead was a standard ninja squad. 1 team leader and 3 genin. They were resting by the water. But this squad was different from ordinary Konoha teams. The flame fan crest on their backs made their identity unmistakable. The Uchiha clan. And among them was someone Eren knew very well. His former classmate, Uchiha Sasuke. Did the Uchiha dig up Danzo's family graves or something? This was outright targeting. The war was still ongoing, and Root was already moving against the Uchiha? This wasn't cleaning up missing nin, this was blatant abuse of power to suppress the Uchiha clan. Eren glanced further into the distance. So this is the route to the Mist Front? During the Second Shinobi World War, the Uchiha had been stationed almost exclusively against Kirigakure. Only later, in the Third War, when Konoha was short on manpower, were they reassigned elsewhere. If this was an Uchiha squad, then they were almost certainly headed for the mist battlefield. Crow was silent for a moment before replying, "Correct. This leads to the land of waterfront." During the Second War, Kirigakure's presence wasn't especially prominent. Thanks to a certain scheming individual, the entire village lacked any ambition to grow or expand. The whole village existed to serve that one person. So aside from their intense clashes with the Uchiha, Kirigakure wasn't nearly as disruptive as Kumogakure, who showed up everywhere like a plague. Their only truly major action was the suspected destruction of the Uzumaki clan. In Konoha, the fall of Uzushiogakure was top secret, known only to a select few. But Kirigakure's involvement was certain. Whether other villages took part was another matter. From Eren's perspective, the destruction of Uzushiogakure had been a joint effort by all the great nations, including the Land of Fire. The most telling sign was that Konoha never sent reinforcements. Hiruzen Sarutobi knew perfectly well what a blow this would be. Uzushiogakure had always been Konoha's staunchest ally. Yet he still refused to act. For him to make such a decision, the pressure couldn't have come from the Uzumaki themselves, nor from fear of other villages. Even Uzumaki Mito, who could subdue the first Hokage, remained silent. So where did the pressure come from? The answer was obvious. The Fire Daimyo. Dig deeper, and it became a matter of the relationship between daimyo and shinobi. But that wasn't Eren's concern right now. What mattered was, what's the strength of their team leader? Eren asked eagerly. Yes, there was his classmate in there. Which meant he'd strike fast out of pure classmate affection and make sure Sasuke left this world without pain. Crow stared at Eren, speechless. No. Why were you excited? Shouldn't you be struggling? That's your classmate down there. Crow truly didn't understand why Lord Danzo had recruited Hyuga Eren. Root members might lack emotions, but did they really have to lack humanity too? Then again, Root never had much humanity to begin with. Finally, Crow answered, Shunin. Leave him to me, Eren said immediately. At least hesitate a little. Eren pulled out several kunai, gauging the distance. Crow suddenly felt that compared to Eren, he was the morally upright one. I'll hold off the Chunin. No need. Eren shot him a sharp look. Try to steal my kill and I'll kill you, okay? Crow laughed in disbelief. He was trying to help, and this kid had the nerve to threaten him. All yours. Eren turned his attention back to the riverside. Byakugan. At this distance, a Chunin could close in within a dozen seconds. Eren raised his kunai. Under the Byakugan's vision, the targets were instantly magnified. Bear paw palm. Fleshy pads formed on his palm. Sniper heavy firepower. Bang. Shadow clone. Unknowable fire on. The next instant, the kunai in Eren's hand vanished. The Uchiha Chunin was grilling fish while lecturing his students. Our Uchiha excel at fire release. As long as you master fire. Bang. A fireball abruptly appeared on his forehead and smashed into it. The smile was still frozen on his face as his pupils began to dilate. Uchiha Sasuke's eyes shrank violently. Through the hole in his teacher's forehead, he could see the scenery behind him. Teacher. His pupils turned crimson. A single tomo slowly began to rotate. In that instant of overwhelming pain and shock, he awakened the Sharingan. The Uchiha Chunin's body collapsed. Two more sharp sounds rang out. Sasuke turned stiffly, seeing small, scorched holes in the heads of his two teammates. Ah! Uchiha Sasuke screamed in agony. In his blood-red eyes, two tomo spun into place. Two tomo Sharingan awakened in rage. You can read 96 plus chapters ahead on Patreon if you're interested. Patreon.com/canonbreaker. Sparkles bonus chapter goals. Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. Chapter 128, You let Hyuga Eren farm the Uchiha and you still expect him to suffer? 1097 words. EXP plus 1657, EXP plus 857, EXP plus 659. You can fight like that? Crow stared at Hyuga Eren in disbelief. 2 kunai. Ultra long-range precision strikes. At that distance, even he would only notice the danger at the very last moment, and dodging would require risking his life. One slip, and he'd die by Hyuga Eren's hand. And judging by Eren's expression, those throws weren't even his limit. Are the Hyuga clan this terrifying now? Forget Jonin. If the timing were right, this could assassinate a Kage. Crow had never seen a combat style like this before, but the results were undeniable. If I don't fight like this, he muttered, am I supposed to just rush in and throw my life away with them? Eren rolled his eyes, 2 perfect white Byakugan whites aimed straight at Crow. Though honestly, if he really rushed in, he could win. His long-range sniping was most effective against Chunin and Genin. Against Jonin, the difficulty skyrocketed, they could still dodge at the critical moment unless they were completely relaxed. That required extreme patience. With that much time, he'd rather farm a few more Chunin. Looks like the sniping build still needed refinement. Eren jumped down from the tree. Where are you going? Crow couldn't help asking. There was still one target left, the most important one. This was supposed to test Eren's resolve in executing the mission. Don't tell me, he couldn't bring himself to do it? Was this guy just all talk? Classmates should be killed face to face, Eren's voice drifted back. So he knows exactly who killed him. Crow fell silent. Yeah, never mind. This guy was a born devil. So much for not wanting to fight head-on, he was moving faster than anyone. Of course, Eren was lying. The real reason was simple, loot. If he killed the last one and left without picking things up, he'd lose out badly. The Uchiha dropped good stuff. There was no way he was missing that. Eren sprinted across the lake's surface, this distance was just right. At that moment, Uchiha Sasuke, his face twisted in agony, turned toward Eren running over the water. Impossible. Despair filled Sasuke's face. Why would Konoha's ANBU attack them? But even so. Unforgivable. Schwa. Eren suddenly appeared not far from him and even raised a hand in greeting. Yo, Sasuke. Long time no see. Sasuke whipped his head around. Eren's voice had changed slightly, he didn't recognize it. But recognition no longer mattered. Absolutely unforgivable. 3 Tomo appeared in Sasuke's crimson eyes. Under extreme anguish, he jumped straight from first awakening to 3 Tomo. At that moment, he felt unprecedented power surging through him. Goodbye, Sasuke. The voice came from behind. Then he realized he was flying. Below him, a body was collapsing to the ground. Why did it look so familiar? Like his own. Darkness swallowed him whole. EXP plus 1021. You've grown, Sasuke. Eren flicked the blood off his blade and turned to the Chunin's drops. It dropped. It dropped. He nearly shouted in excitement. Actually, he did shout. On the dead Chunin's body lay a single eyeball with a crimson pupil, resting quietly. Eren rushed over and picked it up. Sharingan. This was his ticket to piloting a Gundam someday. He quickly stored it away. The Chunin also dropped a skill scroll. Skill, Great Fireball Technique. Useful. He learned it immediately. Great Fireball Technique, LV.1 EXP 0/100. The 2 Genin dropped Shadow Clone and Transformation. I needed you to drop. Eren cursed, then turned to the corpse of his good classmate, Uchiha Sasuke. The moment he saw Sasuke's drop, his eyes lit up. As expected of my good classmate. Another Sharingan. He put it into his inventory. The 2 Sharingan fused. Sharingan, 1 Tomo, 2 of 3. Before he could inspect it further, Crow arrived. He looked at Sasuke's corpse and the head lying on the ground. A chill ran through his entire body. That was way too decisive. Eren glanced at him suspiciously. I feel like you're insulting me in your head? How was he so sharp? Crow hurriedly put on a flattering smile. Just your imagination. Totally. Why was he flattering someone while wearing a mask? Was he performing for blind people? Crow's face under the mask returned to complete neutrality. Mission complete, right? Eren couldn't suppress the joy on his face. This guy was a true monster. Crow's heart twitched violently. Killing his own classmate and still looking this happy. The mission was complete. The real purpose of this mission was to stain Hyuga Eren's hands with the blood of fellow Konoha ninja to test him using his own classmate. They had expected hesitation. Inner struggle. Instead, Eren acted faster than he spoke, like he couldn't wait. Let's go. Back in Konoha. The two returned directly to Eren's house. When do I report to Root? Eren asked curiously. Why did they come straight home after completing the mission? You don't need to report to Root, Crow shook his head. Lord Danzo gave you special approval. When there's a mission, we'll notify you. You just need to complete the tasks we assign. Letting a Hyuga into the Root base would expose too many secrets. One-ton curse seal could solve that, but why didn't Danzo bring Eren to the base anyway? Crow didn't know either. So when's the next mission? Eren looked expectant. This time he got Sharingan. Next time he wanted Shadow Possession. Shadow Possession was a powerful mid-game skill, but only if leveled high enough. Crow fell into thought. What did people usually look like after their first mission? Crying their eyes out, probably. He'd led many missions. Root hadn't even begun training its own ninja yet, most were selected from regular forces, including clan members. Every single one of them completed their first mission with pain written all over their faces. Only Hyuga Eren looked excited. It felt like throwing a weasel into a chicken coop. After a long silence, Crow said, Since you've completed your first mission, the second will come soon. That would be a true Root mission, very likely tied directly to the war. Root was already being mobilized for it. War, huh? Eren rubbed his chin. More fast leveling. Look at today's mission, without the Sharingan, the EXP wouldn't even hit 5,000. What could that do? Crow vanished. Eren used his Byakugan to scan the area. Only after confirming the house was empty did he look into his inventory. Sharingan. You can read 96 plus chapters ahead on Patreon if you're interested. Patreon.com/Cannonbreaker. Sparkles bonus chapter goals Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. Chapter 129, The Sharingan and Organizing the Equipment Inventory. 1063 words. Sharingan, 1 tomo, 2 of 3. He had been looking forward to this for a long time. If one had to name the true child of the patch on the Naruto server, the Sharingan deserved the title without question. Early game, mid-game, late game, the Sharingan always kept up with the meta. From the early 1-tomo Sharingan, to the mid-game Mangekyo Sharingan, to the late-game Rinnegan, and finally the endgame 9-tomo Rinnegan. That's what you call, one generation, one god every generation, the Sharingan. Unfortunately, when Hyuga Eren rolled his bloodline, he didn't get the Uchiha bloodline. He got the Hyuga bloodline instead. That meant he couldn't naturally awaken the Sharingan. The only thing he could obtain was equipment-type Sharingan. This counted as an I-slot equipment, and I-slot gear could only be equipped one at a time. It also couldn't level up naturally. To upgrade it, he had to grind. 3 1-tomo Sharingan could fuse into 1 2-tomo. 3 2-tomo could fuse into 1 3-tomo. Uchiha enemies would never drop 2-tomo or 3-tomo Sharingan directly. which meant Eren needed to kill at least 9 Uchiha and realistically, more, given drop rates. To upgrade the Sharingan even further required pain crystals, an extremely rare drop. Only 4 characters dropped those. Uchiha Itachi, Uchiha Shursui, Uchiha Obito, Nagato. To upgrade Mangekyo Sharingan further, he'd need a second Mangekyo Sharingan, the Uchiha bloodline. And to evolve the Eternal Mangekyo into the Rinnegan, the requirements were even more absurd. Senju Bloodline Uchiha Bloodline max level would release Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan 3 equipment items plus 1 skill fused into the Rinnegan skill, which then granted all Rinnegan-related abilities. That said, Eren rubbed his chin. Uchiha Itachi absolutely has to be farmed. Looking at it this way, a huge number of critical items all dropped from Itachi alone. Pain crystals, Mangekyo Sharingan, Uchiha bloodline. All 3 came from him. As for wood release, future versions of Danzo, Obito, Yamato, and even Madara could drop it. Worst case scenario? Reanimated Senju Hashirama could drop it too. All of this synthesis stuff was clearly mid to late game content anyway. For now, Eren directly equipped the Sharingan. He didn't hide the equipment effect, he wanted to see where it would appear. Pulling out the small mirror he always carried, he looked at his reflection. His eyes were still Byakugan. But on his forehead, a vertical third eye had opened. A crimson pupil, with a single tomo slowly rotating. Eren immediately felt his vision sharpen dramatically, almost comparable to the brain boost state. 3 eyes. Of course it was clearer. I'm basically cosplaying Otsutsuki Kagaya now. Eren muttered, touching the Sharingan on his forehead. Standing next to Kagaya, he'd honestly look like a relative. Biologically speaking, he kind of was. If only I had the Otsutsuki bloodline too. Byakugan plus Otsutsuki bloodline equals Tenseigan. There was actually a Ninja World ability extremely similar to the Otsutsuki bloodline. 6 Paths mode. To unlock it, one needed 7 max level chakra natures. Wind, fire, water, earth, lightning, yin, yang. For example, Eren was already collecting fire-style ninjutsu. If he gathered 10 fire techniques and leveled all of them to max, he could synthesize true fire release. A direct control fire ability comparable to wood release. There were 7 such elemental syntheses. Some elements, water, lightning, yang, had specific bosses that dropped them directly. The rest had to be synthesized manually. But that wasn't all. He'd also need chakra from all 9-tailed beasts, fused into 10-tails chakra, to finally awaken 6 Paths mode. 6 Paths mode and the Otsutsuki bloodline looked similar in ability and appearance. But they were fundamentally different systems. One was a skill. The other was equipment. Couldn't you just blur the line a little? Eren muttered. When he eventually unlocked 6 Paths mode, he just let his Byakugan evolve along with it. Staring at the mirror, the single tomo slowly rotating. He decided to hide the Sharingan. A 1-tomo Sharingan only enhanced dynamic vision, which his Byakugan already provided. He rubbed his eyes unconsciously. This feels itchy. Don't tell me there's some interaction between the Sharingan and Byakugan? In the game, there was no such synergy, everything followed system rules. But this wasn't a game world anymore. This was reality. And both the Sharingan and the Byakugan originated from Otsutsuki Kagaya. Eren suppressed the thought and turned his attention to his inventory. There were a lot of valuable items, mostly from farming the Phantom Troop. He'd nearly forgotten about them. Skills were secondary. The real prize was these. Enhancement +1, ×2, Transmutation +1, ×2, Conjuration +1, ×3, Emission +1, ×1, Specialization +1, ×1, Manipulation +1, ×1. Players didn't need to follow the Hunter-Nin affinity rules. These items were Y. Translated into ninja terms, they boosted chakra attributes. Each +1 increased the corresponding affinity by 10%. After using all of them, Enhancement, 100% transmutation, 120% conjuration, 110% emission, 70% specialization, 10% manipulation, 50%. Even without activating Hatsu, he could still use other nin categories to some extent, though that required leveling the nin skill itself. He also had a talent dropped by Uvajin that boosted raw physical strength. He used that as well. As for skills, none were particularly urgent. EXP was limited, so he chose not to invest for now. Equipment-wise, 2 items stood out. Puppet Phone comes with 2 antennas, carrying another's fate, auto-control mode. Jitandu Tribe Wind Hole, all stats plus 50. The phone granted 2 built-in skills. Carrying another's fate turns others into puppets auto-control mode, fully unlocks his potential for desperate situations. The wind hole required creating a hole somewhere on the body but didn't occupy an equipment slot. Thankfully, it could be hidden. Aaron placed it on his wrist. The rest of the equipment wasn't especially useful. At this point, he'd fully digested everything he gained from the Hunter world. Except for one thing. Phantom Troop Summon Scroll. This one was tricky. What if I summon one and kill them? Aaron rubbed his chin. Honestly, that sounded like a great idea. Right now, his room was empty. No one was monitoring him. Root and ANBU weren't stupid enough to surveil a Hyuga full-time. Alright, let's see. Aaron drew the dark battle blade. Who's unlucky enough to die twice? Or maybe it'll be Krallo, or Finks. Those two hadn't died by his hand yet. Phantom Troop Summon Scroll, activated. You can read 96 plus chapters ahead on Patreon if you're interested. Patreon.com/Cannonbreaker. Sparkles bonus chapter goals Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. Chapter 130, Hyuga Aaron's summon being Maki. 1126 words. A slender figure with pink hair appeared in front of Hyuga Aaron. The slight tension in his body immediately eased. Good, at least it wasn't one of the more troublesome Phantom Troop members. If it had been those people, and he didn't go all out, he really might not have been able to handle them. But the person in front of him now was different. Her combat strength was only average, her real value lay in her excellent support abilities. With his current strength, even without burning his life, defeating her would be easy. Maki Kamasine. Hisoka's dedicated healer. Looks like Hisoka wouldn't need to cry under his blankets after all, his healer was still alive. Maki glanced at Hyuga Aaron, lifted her hand slightly, then sighed helplessly. She walked over to the sofa, plopped down, and casually crossed her legs. Hyuga Aaron? You don't remember me at all? Aaron asked curiously. Instead, Maki looked at him strangely. Hyuga Aaron. The boy who defeated Hisoka. I was at Heaven's Arena back then. They hadn't met face to face, but she knew very well who the boy was who had beaten Hisoka. He was just more muscular now. If you looked carefully, he was still recognizable. Aaron thought it over. Maki remembered him, meaning this was the Maki from the Hunter world. But she hadn't recognized him as her killer. Ah, right. He'd been disguised as a mafia member at the time. No wonder. So you're not surprised at all being in an unfamiliar place? Aaron asked. She was way too calm. Maki replied coldly. I was already dead. Being alive again is strange enough. A different place doesn't really matter. Besides, she continued, staring at him. I tried to attack you just now. My body completely lost control. It only recovered after I stopped wanting to attack you. Her curiosity deepened. Isn't your nin ability something like breathing fire or disappearing? Since when could you summon the dead? Aaron looked down at the card in his hand. The card that once showed all Phantom Troop members now displayed only one figure, Maki. Maybe. Probably, he said vaguely. That explanation somehow worked. Still,
the fact that Maki couldn't attack him was interesting.
Maki suddenly asked, "What happened to the Phantom Troop?" She had wanted to ask this for a long time. Her last memory was of a mafia member with a gun charging at her. She had sensed something wrong, but it was already too late. The man dropped the gun, drew a blade. And then everything went black. But she knew the troop had been set up. "Not sure," Eren replied with a smile. "And this isn't your world anymore anyway. I honestly don't know what happened there." Maki looked at him without changing expression. Her instincts told her he was lying. Another world? Some kind of strange nen ability? No. Literally. Eren spread his arms. "Welcome to the world of ninjas." Maki frowned. Her instincts told her this time he wasn't lying. "Give me proof." "Tomorrow," Eren said, stroking his chin. A strange smile appeared on his face. Maki immediately hugged her chest. "What are you planning to do?" She had a bad feeling. Eren smiled harmlessly. "You can't attack me. So that means, you have to follow my orders too, right?" Maki stared at him coldly, saying nothing. Thin threads emerged from between her fingers. She couldn't kill Eren, but she could kill herself. "Go clean the entire house," Eren ordered. Maki felt her body move on its own, standing up against her will. Making a woman who specialized in killing clean the house? No wonder she had a bad feeling. Eren plopped down onto the sofa, looking at her with disdain. "I'm 13, you know. What kind of filthy thoughts are you having? You pervert." Veins twitched on Maki's forehead. This guy was even more annoying than Hisoka. Maki was cleaning the house. Eren sat on the sofa, watching her while idly playing with the summoning card in his fingers. She looked completely human. For now, he couldn't see anything strange. He asked curiously, "Maki, can you still use your abilities?" Maki didn't answer. Threads appeared around Eren, but the moment they got close, they vanished. Looks like the summoning card's restrictions on her were quite severe. In the ninja world, Maki's strength would roughly be at the level of a special jonin, very useful to him. But her identity was tricky. If she were just an ordinary person, Konoha wouldn't care much. But someone with power comparable to a ninja? Konoha would absolutely notice her, possibly detain and interrogate her. Unless Maki behaved herself. But considering her background, born in Meteor City, later a Phantom Troop member, she might look gentle, but she was utterly lawless. Letting Maki live in Konoha would almost certainly put her at odds with the village. "Can I put her away again?" The card in Eren's hand flashed faintly. Maki's figure vanished. Eren's eyes lit up as he stared at the card. She really turned into a summon. But, why Maki? He just sighed in relief that it was Maki. And now he was sighing because it was Maki. As a summon, Maki was only a so-so. Her combat power wasn't great. As for medical skills, she might not even be better than Eren's medical ninjutsu. Useful, but not essential. Eren summoned her again. Maki frowned. What just happened? She realized she was standing in a different spot but had no memory of moving. No memory when recalled? Eren fell into thought. Still, he didn't fully trust her words. Maki was a transmuter, after all. Nen affinities didn't perfectly reflect personality, but some traits did align. Transmuters were especially good at lying. Nothing, Eren shook his head. Being able to recall Maki at will was a huge advantage. But now the Phantom Troop summon scroll had become a Maki summon scroll. Looks like he could only summon her specifically now. Maki glanced at Eren. Under these circumstances, she can only hide her intentions for now. Wait for a chance to break free and kill him. Eren yawned. Once again, he was awakened by violent knocking at the door. Who the hell is it this early? The entire house looked brand new now, thanks to Maki's hard work last night. Hyuga the skinflayer used her and tossed her back. A textbook example of a shameless slave owner. He walked over and opened the door. Big brother. Senju Nawaki's energetic voice rang out.
Eren helplessly slapped his palm to his face.
Don't you have school? Today's the weekend. No school.
You can read 96 plus chapters ahead on Patreon if you're interested.
Patreon.com/canonbreaker.
Sparkles bonus chapter goals. Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter.
Chapter 131, Nawaki wants to challenge Hyuga Eren. 1149 words. Hyuga Eren went out wearing rather thin clothes.
Even though it was icy and snow-covered outside, with his physical constitution, a bit of cold meant nothing to him.
Ah, chew. Big bro, how about we go back and put on something thicker? Nawaki couldn't help saying from the side.
Eren wasn't exactly wearing shorts and a t-shirt, but his outfit was still just a single layer. One gust of cold wind went straight through him. Even Nawaki, bundled up in a padded coat, felt cold just looking at him.
It's fine. Eren waved his hand. Chakra rapidly enveloped his body, pushing the cold away.
One application of Nen was repelling low temperatures. If that wasn't enough, he could simply raise the temperature of his Nun.
Chakra nature manipulation. As long as he could use it, chakra could be directly converted into the desired attribute. Raising the temperature was an easy trick. Alright, not cold anymore.
So yeah, mere cold really wasn't worth mentioning. The main reason they were out today was to buy furniture and household items. In winter, there weren't many shops open, but furniture stores still operated, just with much worse business. They quickly picked a furniture shop. Eren bought quite a lot and made a reservation for home delivery. Only then did Nawaki finally reveal his real purpose for coming to see him. Big bro, fight me one-on-one. Eren tilted his head. Are you sure? This wasn't him bullying someone, Nawaki was the one who asked for it.
It wasn't that Eren looked down on Nawaki.
But now he had solid Jonin-level strength, while Nawaki, despite being a genius, was at best an outstanding genin.
And that was already under Eren's pressure-driven training. A Jonin fighting a genin, there was really no suspense. I'm sure. To defeat you, big bro, I've trained for a long time. Nawaki spoke confidently.
Even though he'd been beaten by Eren once and acknowledged him as his big brother, that didn't mean he accepted being weaker forever.
I believe you've grown fast these past 2 years as a ninja, big bro, but I won't lose to you.
Nawaki raised his fist, fire practically blazing in his eyes.
A strange smile appeared on Eren's face.
He hoped Nawaki would still be saying that in a moment.
Go, Nawaki big bro.
In the Forest of Death, at the place where they used to train,
Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki were wildly waving glow sticks.
Wait, where did those glow sticks even come from?
Eren suddenly realized something was very wrong. And what was with Minato and Kushina's fanatical expressions? Were these really just Nawaki's little follower and little sister?
They looked more like members of some bizarre cult fan club.
Big bro, don't worry about such details. Nawaki said with a bright smile, standing not far from Eren, itching to fight. Those details are very worth worrying about, okay? Eren pointed at Minato and Kushina. Their state was completely off, and what was with those green cloaks they were wearing? Why was Nawaki's face printed on them? What exactly had he done to these kids? Had this turned into hot-blooded high school crossed with a cult? Or a full-on idol fan support group? Nawaki didn't care at all. He just said seriously to Eren. Big bro, I'm coming. Whoosh. Nawaki crossed the distance between them almost instantly, throwing a punch.
Eren merely shifted his body to the side to dodge, clicking his tongue.
So fast. He drove a knee toward Nawaki's abdomen. Nawaki reacted just as quickly, slapping Eren's knee aside with one hand and spinning backward at high speed before landing steadily. Not bad. Eren praised him sincerely. That reaction speed was already brushing the threshold of a chunin. He suddenly fell into thought. What kind of fantasy Naruto world was this?
Seeing Eren distracted, Nawaki leaped at him again, raising his fist and smashing down.
The monstrous strength of the Senju clan. Eren had no intention of testing it head-on. He lightly jumped backward to dodge.
But Nawaki didn't stop. Instead, he slammed his fist into the ground.
Earth release. Quaking fist. Boom. The ground shattered as a huge earthen spike shot upward from beneath Eren's feet.
Eren flipped backward again to evade, staggering a few steps after landing, nearly falling.
He clapped his hands at Nawaki.
With this level, you're already qualified to take the Chunin exams. Casting ninjutsu without hand seals meant Nawaki was extremely familiar with the technique and had deliberately sacrificed most of its power.
But the damage is too low. You'll need to keep improving it.
Nawaki steadied his breathing, then stomped hard on the ground, cracking it.
His body shot forward like a cannonball toward Eren. Don't look down on me. Eren hadn't used even a fraction of his real strength. To Nawaki, it felt like he was being completely toyed with. Eren sidestepped, dodging Nawaki's charge. Nawaki landed and immediately swept his leg. Eren hopped back lightly to avoid it.
Nawaki rose and rushed again, turning his hands and feet into weapons, attacking non-stop. Eren merely swayed his body, dodging every strike with ease.
Eren was untouched.
Nawaki, on the other hand, stopped, panting heavily. He slammed his fist into the ground.
Use your full strength already. Hyuga Eren. Quaking fist.
Spikes erupted from the ground again, only for Eren to leap and flip away.
Looks like if I don't get serious, you won't let this go. Eren shrugged.
The smile on his face slowly faded, his gaze turning cold.
Unrestrained killing intent burst from his body. In that instant, Nawaki froze.
His body stiffened, completely unable to move.
A bone-chilling cold crawled up from deep within his marrow. Move already!
Nawaki screamed inside his head, but his body refused to respond. At that moment, a sharp kunai was pressed against his throat, forcing him to raise his head.
Nawaki, Eren's icy voice rang out. This is what being a ninja means. Nawaki swallowed hard. He'd lost. Without question. All that long, grueling training ended the instant Eren got serious. You can't even withstand my killing intent, Eren said, withdrawing the kunai. How are you supposed to fight me? How? How could this be?
In the distance, Kushina knelt on the ground in shock.
The invincible Nawaki big bro actually lost. Minato said sorrowfully. I will inherit your will, Nawaki big bro. He looked at Eren with determination. One day, I'll defeat you, big brother Eren. I'm not dead yet. Nawaki roared. Why did it sound like he'd already died in their mouths? Hold on, whether you're dead or not isn't the point. What the hell is big brother? Eren stared at Minato, speechless. My life is very important. Nawaki declared firmly.
You can read 96 plus chapters ahead on Patreon if you're interested.
Patreon.com/canonbreaker.
Sparkles bonus chapter goals Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter.
Chapter 132, Tsunade's Warning. 1,201 words. The battle came to an end. With Hyuga Eren's overwhelming suppression as the result, he claimed an unquestionable victory.
Nawaki was unwilling to accept it, but in the end, he could only do so. He never imagined that after graduating from the Ninja Academy, his first generation would grow this fast.
Come on, I'll treat you all to barbecue.
Eren suggested, looking at the 3 dejected kids.
Long live the first Hokage. Kushina's eyes lit up instantly. Hyuga Eren figured he could now be compared to Senju Hashirama in some sense.
Sure, one was the founder of Konoha, while the other was the reformer who turned the Ninja Academy into a hot-blooded academy.
He just hoped Senju Tobarama wouldn't have any objections to him.
Minato also smiled, and Nawaki had already adjusted his mood.
Let's go.
Inside the barbecue restaurant,
Eren admitted that he regretted it.
In his entire life, aside from today, he honestly couldn't recall any other moment of regret. He stared at the stacks of meat plates piled up beside Nawaki and Kushina, already forming a small mountain.
Nearby, Minato wore a shy smile. Why are you acting shy? No wonder Kushina calls you a sissy. Eren had forgotten Nawaki and Kushina could really eat. My wallet. Eren wailed internally.
He felt like this single meal could complete his wallet's weight loss goal, something countless dieters dreamed of. His wallet was always ahead of them. Having finished eating, Minato curiously asked,
First Hokage-sama, do you have a dream? So every meal has to involve talking about dreams now? Eren put down his chopsticks, thought for a moment, and said, Honestly, I don't really have a special dream. Probably, wipe out the 4 great ninja villages first. You couldn't mention Konoha inside Konoha. After wiping out the 5 great villages, the EXP should be enough to max out his level and maybe even synthesize all 7 major chakra natures. Minato's smile froze. Wasn't this dream a bit? The people of the 4 great villages were crying, they didn't even know they'd become part of someone else's dream. Well, maybe not like that. Only that is the path to peace. Nawaki said with a sigh. That has absolutely nothing to do with peace. Not only Minato, even Kushina stopped chewing. They knew Nawaki dreamed of dominating the ninja world, but they didn't realize it would be this extreme. Minato, what about your dream? Eren quickly changed the topic. I want to become Hokage. Minato scratched his head awkwardly. He felt his dream was still pretty normal. Then the Hokage will definitely be me. Kushina immediately objected. Minato grew serious. Only the position of Hokage, I absolutely won't give that up. Eren and Nawaki exchanged glances. Luckily, neither of them had much interest in becoming Hokage. Didn't Nawaki also want to be Hokage? If it's Hokage, I won't yield either, Nawaki said calmly as he picked up a slice of meat. Because only by becoming Hokage can I start dominating the entire ninja world and bring true peace. Eren silently put down his chopsticks. He felt like he should move to another table. This one should be called the Hokage Dream Table. Why don't you all just fight it out? Eren's feet crunched softly as he stepped through the snow. The house he rented was closer to the outer ring of Konoha. After all, land in the inner ring was incredibly expensive. With 3,000 ryo, you could only rent a small place there. Under the moonlight, a slender figure stood at his gate. Seeing the green flak jacket and the tied-up blonde ponytail. Yo, Tsunade-sensei. What brings you to visit an old teammate like me? Eren asked with a smile. Tsunade crossed her arms, staring coldly at him. Did Nawaki come looking for you today? Nawaki's about to become a ninja. Don't you think you're interfering a bit too much, Lady Tsunade? Eren replied calmly. Her answer was her leg. Eren raised both arms to block. Eren slid backward several meters before stopping. So even with me you're this arrogant, looks like your strength has given you confidence. Tsunade withdrew her leg, her voice cold. Stay away from Nawaki. She had already noticed something was wrong with Nawaki's mindset and she knew exactly who was responsible. Tsunade-sensei, I said it already, you're overstepping. Eren said bluntly, even arrogantly. Nawaki has his own path to walk. Tsunade's expression darkened. She clenched her teeth, unable to say anything in response. She truly believed Nawaki was walking down the wrong path, and as his sister, it was her responsibility to guide him back. Tsunade-sensei, Eren continued. A bird in a cage will eventually break free. How can you put shackles on Nawaki? Everyone has their own road to walk. You can't control it, and neither can I. Eren walked past Tsunade, completely exposing his back to her. If she chose to strike, Eren might not react in time.
Tsunade remained silent for a long while, until she heard the sound of the door opening and closing. She raised her head and looked up at the stars in the night sky. They shone brightly yet could not illuminate the boundless darkness. Breaking free from the birdcage, Tsunade murmured softly. Phew. Eren let out a light breath. Act cool and run, that really felt good. It wasn't like he'd actually exposed himself to danger. He had already dropped a kunai behind him. If anything went wrong, he could immediately use the substitution technique. He wasn't stupid enough to leave himself completely unguarded. Clearly, because of Nawaki, Tsunade's opinion of him had sunk pretty low. But this wasn't the past anymore. Even though only half a year had passed, his strength could already be considered Jonin level. Unless it was a fight to the death, Tsunade wouldn't find it easy to take him down. After all, Tsunade hadn't yet reached her peak. Byakugan. Through his Byakugan, Eren saw Tsunade lingering outside for quite some time before finally leaving. She knew that things could no longer be changed. That Nawaki guy really knows how to cause me trouble. Tsunade returned home and went straight to Nawaki's room. Sis. Nawaki looked like a kid caught red-handed doing something bad. Which wasn't true. He hadn't done anything. Is something wrong, sis? Nawaki put on an obedient expression. Tsunade hesitated, completely unsure how to educate her younger brother. Grandma Mito, because of the Uzumaki clan's fate, had sunk into depression and her health was already poor. She stayed in her room most of the time. At home, only Tsunade could teach Nawaki, but she was also extremely busy, which was why she'd neglected his upbringing. Nawaki, Tsunade said gravely. From now on, stay away from that Hyuga Eren. Nawaki looked at her in surprise. Sis, do you maybe misunderstand brother Eren? Tsunade snorted coldly. What misunderstanding could I have about him? A reckless man, through and through. Nawaki thought for a moment, then said carefully. Sis. Brother Hyuga Eren isn't the kind of person you think he is. You can read 96 plus chapters ahead on Patreon if you're interested. Patreon.com/canonbreaker. Sparkles bonus chapter goals Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. Chapter 133, An Unexpected Turn from the Stone. 1122 words. Big brother, he's actually on guard against everyone, Nawaki said as he thought aloud. I don't know why, but the first time I met him, I could feel it, he's wary of everyone. It's like everyone is his enemy. Hyuga Eren, you live surrounded by mobs, wouldn't you be on guard too? Tsunade frowned. Because of the caged bird seal, the Hyuga clan did indeed hide many things. And since the seal truly couldn't be undone, everything had been forcibly suppressed. Perhaps Eren's personality was the result of that seal. Then what did he mean by breaking free from the caged bird? Could it be that Eren had found a way to remove it? Tsunade fell into deep thought. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. That was a cursed seal even Konoha couldn't undo. Root had tried many times to undo the caged bird, only to give up in the end. After all, matters that could damage village harmony couldn't be handled by the Hokage himself. Naturally, they were dumped into Konoha's sewer. Root. Unaware of his sister's thoughts, Nawaki continued, but actually, big brother Eren isn't like that on the surface. He's really kind. Tsunade didn't agree at all. That guy had slaughtered an entire bandit mountain. His killing intent was frightening. Nawaki recalled, but his kindness is only toward ordinary people. Sometimes he helps old folks cross the road, rescues kittens stuck in trees, and escorts lost kids home. Someone had once tried the mission board's odd jobs. Nawaki had seen it all. Since there were no rewards afterward, Eren eventually stopped. And Nawaki became Eren's little brother not because of Eren's strength, but because of those things he'd seen. That's nothing alike. Tsunade thought back to Eren and could only recall his arrogant face. That sounds like two completely different people. Absolutely two different people. Still, Nawaki shrugged, big brother Eren treats ninjas differently. But that's because no one can truly get close to him or understand what he's thinking.
As he spoke, a hint of fanaticism appeared on Nawaki's face. Big brother Eren has great wisdom.
It's just that you haven't stepped into his world, sis, so you don't understand his wisdom, his charm.
Right now, only I can enter Big brother Eren's world.
Only unification is the sole path to true peace. Tsunade pursed her lips. Wasn't this just an excuse for Eren's terrible interpersonal skills? She had looked into it. Eren's relationships were always bad. He used to get along somewhat with branch family members, but now, because of the main family, even that thin goodwill was gone.
In the entire ninja academy, he didn't have particularly good relations with anyone.
In other words, Eren had no friends at all.
Why did she suddenly feel like laughing? Tsunade shook her head. She wasn't the type to gloat. In any case, Nawaki said firmly, Big brother Eren definitely isn't the kind of person you think he is. The Eren he saw was completely different from the Eren everyone else saw. Tsunade clearly didn't believe it. As the saying goes, prejudice is a mountain in the heart. No matter how hard you try, you can't move it. Tsunade was the perfect example. Achoo!
Eren rubbed his nose. Had he caught a cold recently?
Why did he keep sneezing?
He was directing Maki in rearranging the house. All the furniture he'd ordered had arrived.
Maki moved things back and forth.
As a nin user, her strength was considerable. Moving furniture wasn't hard at all.
But didn't you say this was another world?
Then show me some proof already, Maki said expressionlessly, staring at Eren. It felt like the moment she opened her eyes, she was doing housework.
She had the distinct sensation of doing chores 24/7. Her nin wasn't meant to be a housewife's tool.
And someone from Meteor City doing this, she'd be laughed at if word got out.
No rush, Eren yawned. You'll see soon enough.
Though the land of fire had entered winter, the flames of war showed no sign of stopping.
Konoha was still reinforcing its borders.
According to the original timeline, this war would drag on for years.
But Hanzo had taken the initiative. How long it would last, Eren didn't know.
There would be plenty of chances for Maki to witness the peculiarities of the ninja world.
Suddenly, Maki stopped mid-motion and turned toward the door. Eren turned as well and raised a hand, using the Maki summoning ticket to dismiss her. A figure pushed the door open and walked in. It was Crow, marked with black patterns. Didn't expect Root to be so polite, Eren teased.
Crow wore a mask, his expression hidden, his voice emotionless.
Your mission is here.
Support the Land of Earth Front.
Eren looked at him in surprise. What happened? Danzo was clearly commanding from the rain front. Why was Eren being sent to deal with the Land of Earth? Crow didn't hide it. Something big happened. Iwagakure has launched a massive offensive. Even the Tsuchikage has arrived. All Root members are being deployed under ANBU identities to coordinate frontline operations. The order came directly from Danzo. Even the Tsuchikage. Eren clicked his tongue. But it wasn't that strange. During the Third Great Ninja War, Anoki personally took the field multiple times. Even the Third Raikage, A, was hunted down by Anoki leading IWA forces. When do we leave? Eren rose from the sofa. Now. So he really didn't get any rest. Eren had only been back in Konoha a few days before leaving again. Crow led the way. Behind Eren, masked figures appeared one after another. Looking at their numbers, this was almost the entirety of Root, wasn't it? At present, Danzo and Hiruzen were still on the same side. With Konoha in danger, they naturally went all out. I remember Anoki fought Hiruzen during the Second Ninja War. Could this be that moment? Eren suddenly realized. But now Root was being deployed, while Hiruzen remained in Konoha. Did that mean the front had suffered a serious setback, so serious that Hiruzen himself might be forced to the battlefield? At present, the only ones in Konoha capable of holding an entire front alone were Danzo, Hiruzen, and Tsukumo Hatake. The Sannin were strong,
but still a bit lacking to stand alone. They were better suited for squad-based operations.
Looks like this might get dangerous, Eren muttered. The timeline might differ slightly, but the trajectory felt ominously close.
The rustle of leaves swept past their ears, the sound of wind created by their rapid movement through the forest. The Root members silently increased their speed. You can read 96+ chapters ahead on Patreon if you're interested.
Patreon.com/Cannonbreaker.
Sparkles bonus chapter goals. Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter.
Chapter 134, Arrival at the Iwagakure Front. 1,219 words. The Land of Grass.
This was where Iwagakure and Konoha were now fighting at full scale. Neither side wanted to wage war on its own soil, so the battlefield was pushed into the Land of Grass instead.
Iwagakure acted as the attacker, while Konoha took the defensive position. As for what the Land of Grass thought about all this, that didn't matter at all. No one among the two great powers cared. Just a small country. The Grass Village was nothing like the Rain Village in terms of backbone. The moment Konoha and IWA started fighting here, Grass Ninja immediately went into hiding, showing zero intention of defending their own country. A stark contrast to the Land of Rain. The Rain Village was already on the verge of driving three great nations back, while Grass Village had been playing dead this whole time. ANBU Root, codename Squad, fully arrived. Crow led the group to report to the local commander first. The current head of the Nara clan. Nara Shikashi. Shikashi was staring down at the map spread across the table. He turned his head slightly, glancing at the Root members filling the command tent. Root, right? Crow nodded. Yes. Recently, Root had been making contact with the Ino Shikamcho clans, trying to secure manpower support. The Nara and Akimichi clans had remained unmoved, but the Yamanaka clan had quite a few members showing interest. Though it was still only at the contact stage, Shikashi was naturally aware of Root's existence. He looked back at the map, pondered for a moment, then said, "Go reinforce the northeast sector. There are many IWA ninja there, and Takigakure has also shown signs of movement. Your main task is to hold back Iwagakure's attacks, and at the same time monitor Takigakure. If they show any intention of attacking Konoha, you are responsible for stopping them." Takigakure was an oddity among minor villages. It was also the only small village that the five great nations took seriously. After all, their former leader had shamelessly managed to obtain a tailed beast from Senju Hashirama. They were the only minor village to ever possess a tailed beast. Whether Takigakure had strong ninja or not was unclear, but the power of a tailed beast was unquestionable. That alone was enough to make the great villages wary. Otherwise, why would neither Konoha nor Iwagakure pass through Takigakure's territory, even though it lay between the lands of fire and earth? A Takigakure that possessed a tailed beast had the power to enter the war. As the defending side, Konoha naturally had to stay alert to any unusual movement from Takigakure. Takigakure, huh? Hyuga Eren stroked his chin. He remembered that Takigakure dropped items from One Punch Man. So how exactly were those drop tables connected? Still, this assignment was obviously the most dangerous one. A single mistake could mean facing two villages at once. No wonder Root members were so loyal to Danzo later on. Being shoved into the most dangerous positions like this would do it. Shikashi rubbed his temples and waved his hand. Go. Yes. The Root members vanished. Shikashi continued rubbing his temples. The biggest problem right now was that the Tsuchikage, Anoki, had personally appeared on the battlefield, causing heavy losses on Konoha's side. Reinforcements from Root alone wouldn't change the situation. They needed someone who could stand up to Anoki. Anoki never moved alone either, he always appeared with large forces. Shikashi wanted to hunt the Tsuchikage down, but there was simply no opportunity. The man combined recklessness and caution perfectly. Whenever Konoha tried to surround him, he would immediately take to the air and retreat. He never fought Konoha head-on. Even a Kage could be worn down to death if surrounded by countless ninja. Konoha didn't currently have anyone who could single-handedly counter Inoki. But if the Ino Shikacho trio acted together, they could still hold him back. The Konoha front hadn't collapsed yet, they were just at a disadvantage. But the breach of the defensive line was only a matter of time. Shikashi had no better options now. All he could do was continue requesting reinforcements from Konoha. The land of grass was mostly plains. On the southeastern front, Konoha ninja had already constructed trenches, and the two sides were exchanging ninjutsu non-stop. Some IWA ninja attempted to flank from the sides, only for Konoha to immediately dispatch intercepting units. If they went any farther, they would enter another front line entirely. The fighting between Iwagakure and Konoha was intense. At this moment, root members appeared inside the trenches. A Sarutobi clan jonin with a thick beard looked at the newcomers. Reinforcements from ANBU? Crow nodded silently. When operating outside, Root always used ANBU identities. We're short on manpower to block the flanks. We need your help. Those skilled in ninja. Boom! A massive earthen sphere smashed down not far from the trench, sending up a deafening explosion. Konoha ninja immediately began forming seals. Wind release, thousand-faced wind. Countless small wind blades surged forward. Several powerful enemy ninja attempted to charge the trench directly, and Konoha responded at once by sending out interceptors. They clashed amid overlapping ninjutsu, exchanging blows at high speed, until the surviving Konoha ninja quickly retreated. The Sarutobi jonin finished what he had been saying. Those proficient in ninjutsu stay. As for assignments, decide among yourselves, I won't micromanage. He didn't know these people well anyway. Rumble. The ground suddenly began to shake violently. 3 Iwagakure jonin used the smoke of battle as cover to approach, activating ninjutsu together, intending to wipe out the trench in one strike. Stop them, the Sarutobi jonin roared. Numerous Konoha ninja rushed forward. 2 of the IWA jonin stepped up to counterattack, buying time for the one in the middle to continue casting. For a moment, Konoha couldn't break through their defense. The trench wasn't occupied only by jonin, there were many chunin and genin inside as well. Fire release, Grand Flame Art, a Sarutobi jonin shouted. Earth release, Earth Flow Wall, the IWA side responded in haste. Rumble, rumble. The ground shook even more violently. Many people could barely keep their footing. The trench they had dug was being attacked from both sides. I'll handle it. Hyuga Eren suddenly spoke. You can solve this? The Sarutobi jonin frowned and turned to look at him. So many people couldn't deal with it, what could a single ANBU member do? ANBU were secretive, but that didn't mean they were stronger than frontline jonin. I specialize in long-range strikes. Eren weighed a kunai in his hand. Let him do it. There won't be a problem, Crow added. He had personally witnessed Eren's long-range killing power. Crow quickly made hand signs to the root members, assigning tasks. In an instant, all root operatives disappeared. Then try, the Sarutobi jonin said to Eren. At this point, they had no choice. If the trench fully collapsed, their last advantage would be gone. Eren activated his Byakugan, piercing through layers of clashing ninjutsu to lock onto the IWA ninja still channeling techniques. The enemy's ninjutsu was massive, it required setup time. And during that time, they couldn't move. Locked on. You can read 90+ chapters ahead on Patreon if you're interested. Patreon.com/Cannonbreaker. Sparkles bonus chapter goals Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. Chapter 135, Sniper Hyuga Eren takes position. 1208 words. Shadow Clone Technique. Nin, Weizhou. 3 abilities activated simultaneously. And finally, Bear Paw. Hyuga Eren slapped the back of the kunai with his palm. Whoosh! The Sarutobi jonin saw the kunai in front of Eren vanish in an instant. The disappearing kunai was wrapped in a shockwave. The compressed air ignited, transforming it into a fireball.
The fireball surged forward along a preset trajectory. Behind it, a second fireball phantom followed closely, gradually overlapping with the first. The moment the two fireballs merged,
their speed skyrocketed.
Whoosh! The sound of air tearing apart rang out. It pierced through the interwoven wind and fire ninjutsu, tore through a solid earthen wall, and arrived directly in front of the IWA ninja who was in the middle of casting his technique. He sensed something and instinctively raised his head. All he saw was a fireball rushing straight at his face.
His chakra was still committed to the technique. At this moment, he couldn't dodge at all. Chh.
A soft sound. The fireball passed straight through his head. His eyes went vacant as he collapsed to the ground. The IWA ninja who were desperately holding back Konoha forces sensed something wrong and turned around. Only to see their companion lying on the ground, the hole in the back of his skull seeming to mock their stupidity. By the time they realized what had happened, it was already too late. Trying to retreat now was impossible.
Surrounded by Konoha ninja, they had only one outcome left. Let's die together, Konoha scum.
The two IWA ninja looked ferocious as they pulled out all their explosive tags at once, charging toward the nearest Konoha ninja and grabbing them tightly.
The Konoha ninja screamed in terror. Boom! Boom! Two violent explosions rang out. With their final moments, the two IWA ninja dragged Konoha ninja down with them. And yet, the battle on the front line was far from over. Experience plus 15,761. Hubert Aaron glanced at the experience notification. Extremely generous. But there was no way he could rush up to the battlefield, he'd just become a target. As for the dropped items, he could only give them up regretfully. Iwagakure dropped magic skills, even hidden class abilities, without learning restrictions. If he could collect 5 Dragon Slayer magic skills, they could be fused into a full Dragon Slayer magic. And Dragon Slayer magic had huge potential. But only Jonin dropped those skills. Not bad, the Sarutobi Jonin praised, turning to Aaron. What's your name? Aaron smiled. Player. The Sarutobi Jonin nodded. He understood it was a code name. Whether ANBU or Root, they all used code names instead of real names. Can you repeat that kind of attack just now? Aaron replied calmly, yes. As long as you give me a suitable position, I can snipe them. He turned on his Byakugan and measured the distance between the two sides. The distance can be even farther. The Sarutobi Jonin frowned slightly at the white pupils, then showed a look of realization. So this was how Hyuga Ninja could be used. Any other requirements? As long as you can keep up those attacks. As a frontline commander, he immediately recognized the value of Aaron's ultra-long-range strikes. The distance between their trench and Iwagakure's trench was right at the limit of normal ninjutsu range. But Aaron's kunai clearly exceeded that range. Higher ground, Aaron said. It'll make aiming easier. Done. And kunai. A lot of kunai. Done. And money. Lots of money. The Sarutobi Jonin was about to nod, then suddenly froze and stared at Aaron. Shamelessly extorting benefits on the battlefield? First time he'd ever seen that. I'm just kidding, Aaron said with an awkward grin. We'll prepare everything immediately, the Sarutobi Jonin said. He didn't have time to joke around. He immediately called over 2 ninja and gave them instructions. Follow them. All right. Aaron followed the 2 toward the rear of the trench. How far do you need? Asked a blonde female ninja. Aaron glanced at the distant enemy trench. He could barely make out its outline. Here is fine. He could go farther. But if he did, an IWA ninja infiltrated and surrounded him, he wouldn't have time to call for help. This distance was perfect. The IWA ninja couldn't see him, and if he ran into danger, reinforcements could arrive quickly. Okay.
The seemingly dull male ninja formed seals rapidly.
Earth release, pillar tower technique.
A patch of ground about a meter wide suddenly rose upward, growing rapidly until it reached a height of 10 meters before stopping.
The female ninja also formed seals.
Aaron recognized it immediately, summoning technique. She slapped her hand on the ground.
Bang!
4 or 5 sealing scrolls appeared beneath her palm.
These are all kunai. Use them as you like. Got it.
Aaron picked up the scrolls and ran up the earthen pillar, stepping along its surface. The two ninja returned to the trench. At the top, it was shaped like a watchtower, walls, a roof, proper cover.
Standing at this height, Aaron looked into the distance.
With the naked eye, he could barely see the direction of the IWA trench. But details were impossible. The harvest begins. Aaron curled his lips, opened a sealing scroll, and a full crate of kunai appeared beside him.
He picked one up. Byokugan. The Iwagakure trench came into clear view.
From this angle, he could clearly see the inner side of the trench.
Shadow clone. All activated at once. He raised the kunai and slapped it forward. Whoosh! Inside the IWA trench.
They were constantly repelling Konoha counterattacks while launching their own ninjutsu. The IWA commander frowned, staring at the distant trench as he thought about how to break through Konoha's defenses.
But Tsuchikage was reinforcing other fronts and couldn't spare attention here.
If they could break through before the Tsuchikage arrived, it would be a massive achievement.
Just as he was thinking. Whoosh! A sharp tearing sound rang out. He snapped his head to the side as a fireball brushed past his cheek and smashed into the earthen wall behind him. Bang! A hole appeared in the wall.
Where did that attack come from? He shouted, scanning for the source.
Whoosh! Another fireball pierced straight through a Chunin's body. He finally identified the direction. It seemed to be coming from high ground on the opposite side. The dust kicked up by clashing ninjutsu blocked his vision, preventing him from seeing the watchtower farther away. Whoosh!
The fireballs didn't stop.
This time, one targeted a jonin, but the jonin managed to dodge. He quickly calculated the timing. 1 fireball every 3 seconds. Boom! A genin was pierced straight through. How are they hitting us from here?
Find out why, he roared at his subordinates.
Even the trench couldn't block these attacks.
But his shouting did nothing to stop the fireballs.
Ah!
A jonin who was fully focused on casting a technique suddenly screamed.
A fireball blasted off his arm.
If he hadn't reacted in time, he would have died on the spot. You can read 90+ chapters ahead on Patreon if you're interested.
Patreon.com/canonbreaker.
Sparkles bonus chapter goals. Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter.
Chapter 136, The Terror of a Sniper on the Battlefield. 1,196 words.
Just as the IWA jonin was screaming in pain, another fireball appeared in front of him like a ghostly shadow, about to take his life. The jonin beside him instantly dashed forward and struck the fireball with the kunai in his hand. The fireball itself wasn't very large, only about the size of a palm, so blocking it with a kunai was just right.
Bang! The fireball was extinguished by the strike.
The kunai hidden inside flew out and landed on the ground nearby, radiating intense heat. But he had only blocked 1 fireball. More fireballs kept coming, endlessly, from the distance. They were like scythes wielded by the Grim Reaper, relentlessly harvesting lives inside the trench. Genin had absolutely no chance of dodging. One after another, they fell beneath the fireballs.
Chunin fared only slightly better.
Out of 10, at least 7 would still die.
Only jonin could barely manage to block or evade in time. But that was only if they were in perfect condition.
Those jonin who had already retreated from the front lines with heavy injuries had no strength left to dodge or block at all.
They could only be taken away by the fireballs.
The IWA commander's face twisted with rage, veins bulging on his forehead.
Damn it! Where is this attack coming from? Find it. Everyone, stop the offensive. Find the source of the attack. With his furious roar, the IWA ninja's advance slowed down. The smoke and chaos of the battlefield thinned slightly. Originally, this trench had been dug outside the effective range of Konoha's ninjutsu. Neither side could easily hit the other from trench to trench. But now, this place was no longer safe. If they couldn't stop this kind of attack, they would be completely overwhelmed. As the fighting at the front eased, it became easier to see Konoha's trench in the distance. Even then, the fireballs didn't stop, they continued harvesting IWA lives. At last, they clearly saw where the fireballs were coming from. Behind them. Behind Konoha's trench, there's a watchtower. The attacks are coming from there. An IWA ninja with sharp eyesight spotted the fireballs being launched from the tower. Even though their speed was terrifying, faint trajectories could still be traced. The moment he shouted, "Bang!" a fireball pierced straight through his head. His body, missing half its skull, collapsed lifelessly to the ground. From afar, Hyuga Eren muttered, "Daring to get that close, if I don't kill you, who should I kill?" He was completely focused on harvesting kills and hadn't noticed that Iwa's offensive had slowed or that his position had been exposed. Inside the IWA trench. Although the scout had died, the information about the watchtower had already spread. A Jonin quickly reported to the commander. "Sir, the enemy is positioned far behind Konoha's trench. We can't reach them at all. How is he even doing this?" The commander frowned deeply. What kind of jutsu could reach that far? He had never heard of Konoha possessing such a capability. Throwing attacks that far should be impossible. Then again, Tsunade could probably throw something that far and still make it lethal, but how could she be that accurate? And that position was behind Konoha's trench. They couldn't even break through Konoha's defenses, so how were they supposed to attack that tower? "Retreat," the IWA commander said through gritted teeth. They couldn't break through Konoha's line, and staying here would only let that sniper keep harvesting their lives. In fact, that single person had already killed more of them than those who had died charging the front. Ninja were highly mobile combat units. Even rushing through intense bombardment, they didn't die easily. Over many days of attacking, they had only lost a dozen or so people. Yet in just this short time, that sniper had already taken more than 10 lives. They had no other choice. Retreat was the only option. The commander clenched his teeth, eyes bloodshot, staring in the direction of the watchtower. If they didn't deal with this ultra-long-range attacker, their offensive was doomed to fail. The IWA ninja retreated, driven off by Hyuga Eren's threat. If they stayed, casualties would only rise with no gains to show for it. Inside Konoha's trench, cheers erupted. This was the first time they had ever forced Iwagakure to retreat. The Sarutobi clan commander finally let out a breath of relief. Iwa's assaults hadn't stopped for days, and neither had his work. He turned his gaze toward the distant watchtower. He knew this was all thanks to the ANBU ninja codenamed player. Being able to strike the trench from that position. Even if he and the IWA commander swapped roles, he wouldn't have had any good solution. Meanwhile, inside the watchtower, Hyuga Eren was still trying to snipe the retreating IWA ninja. This time, they were prepared. He only managed to harvest 7 or 8 more before they fully withdrew. At that distance, continuing the attack would significantly reduce its effectiveness. He glanced at the notifications scrolling before his eyes. Experience, 58,153. This was the total experience he had farmed here. 3 Jonin 9 Chunin over 20 Genin. Why'd they leave? Eren muttered. At least let me hit 100,000 first. Still, he could only reliably farm Chunin and Genin. The 3 Jonin had all been heavily injured easy targets. Against healthy Jonin, his ultra-long-range attacks had almost no effect. "Jonin player, you can come down and rest now." Someone called up to him from below the tower. Eren curled his lips. "They're calling me Jonin already, and that old man Saratobi still won't even promote me to Chunin. What a complete reversal of logic. He leapt down lightly from the tower. Standing before him was a small Inazuka girl with a ponytail. Jonin player.
The Inazuka girl said, her face slightly red.
Aaron's face, however, showed clear disdain. Why is it always these little brats who like me? He doesn't like Lolas. He likes Wani-sans.
Nearby, a group of Konoha ninja were celebrating. Somehow, they'd even gotten hold of game to roast.
Only one group stood out as completely out of place.
The root members, sitting silently in the shadows. Night had already fallen, and their corner seemed even darker. Aaron bit into a sandwich, gazing enviously at the barbecue in the distance.
Are they not afraid of IWA launching a surprise attack? He asked.
Beside him, Crow stuffed a soldier pill into his mouth.
He couldn't help wondering where Aaron even pulled that sandwich from.
If you look carefully, Crow said calmly, you'll notice they haven't lowered their guard at all.
If IWA comes within range, they'll enter combat immediately.
Aaron smacked his lips. These IWA guys are really slacking.
How can they let Konoha eat this well?
He stood up and walked toward the rear of the trench.
Where are you going? Crow asked in a low voice. To experiment with ninjutsu, Aaron waved his hand dismissively. He wanted to find a method that could reliably kill Jonin.
You can read 90+ chapter ahead on Patreon if you're interested, patreon.com/canonbreaker. Sparkles bonus chapter goals Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter.
Chapter 137, Level 36, The Furnace Function Unlocked. 1183 words. Hyuga Aaron walked into an open area, found a rock, and plopped down on it.
His gaze shifted to the experience counter on his status panel.
When he saw the number, he couldn't help but laugh. Experience pool, 110,082. Another 100,000 experience.
Sure enough, the battlefield really was his blessed land. He'd only been here for a single day, and his experience had already climbed back over 100,000.
If he farmed for 10 more days, wouldn't he jump straight into the millions? Just thinking about it made him excited.
1,000,000 experience points, enough to boost his strength enormously, possibly doubling his current combat power.
Let's level up twice first. Name, Hyuga Aaron. Profession, Hunter. Level, LV35, 023, 500.
Chakra/Nan, 3680/2110 plus 50 plus 20 plus 1000 plus 500.
Name, Hyuga Aaron. Profession, Hunter. Level, LV36, 025, 500.
Chakra/Nan, 3780/2110 plus 50 plus 20 plus 1000 plus 500.
Finally, Level 36. Hyuga Aaron stared at the level displayed on his panel. Reaching Level 36 wasn't just about awakening.
Detected that the player has reached Level 36.
Hunter Awakening skill unlocked. Please input required conditions. Awakening will be completed automatically. Sub-profession unlocked. Please select. Furnace unlocked.
The furnace and sub-profession systems are still here.
Hyuga Aaron looked at the newly unlocked features with delight.
He had originally thought these two systems wouldn't appear at all, and hadn't even factored them into his plans.
Sub-professions were the player's secondary way of earning experience, things like blacksmith, doctor, alchemist, scientist, and so on.
By performing tasks related to the chosen sub-profession, one could gain experience. The amount wasn't comparable to killing enemies, but it was still a steady source. In the game, it was more of a nice-to-have feature. But the furnace, that was a core system. One of its functions was to throw unwanted items and skills into it, converting them into something called essence. Essence was good stuff, especially beloved by gamblers. With just 1,000 essence, you could enhance a piece of equipment once. Of course, the more times you enhanced it, the higher the failure rate. It was basically a copy of Dungeon Fighter's enhancement machine.
Besides strengthening equipment, essence could also be used like HP or MP potions. Spending essence would instantly restore health or energy. The furnace also had a fusion function. By placing several items of the same tier into it, along with a certain amount of essence, there was a chance to obtain higher tier equipment. The same applied to skills. This feature wasn't just loved by gamblers, ordinary players adored it too. It was the only true path for low-level players to overtake high-level ones. He didn't even look at the awakening options yet. Instead, he eagerly opened the furnace. A cauldron-like object appeared before his eyes. It looked like an alchemy furnace, engraved with taiji patterns all around. The lid was already open, the original cover was nowhere to be seen. Inside, flames burned brightly, yet no heat radiated outward at all. He tossed in all his low-level equipment, redundant skills, and duplicate items, taking the chance to tidy up his inventory. A screen appeared beside the furnace. Pretty high-tech, actually, Hyuga Aaron muttered. On the screen were only two options. Smelt. Fuse. He tapped, smelt. The furnace lid suddenly reappeared and slammed shut. The entire furnace began to shake violently, flames erupting around it, yet Hyuga Aaron still felt no heat at all. With a loud boom, the lid flew off. Hyuga Aaron vanished from his spot, leaving only the furnace behind. A cold wind swept through. Hyuga Aaron emerged from the shadow of a tree. That scared the hell out of me. Such a big commotion, and no one heard it? He let out a relieved breath. The furnace was surprisingly user-friendly, only he could hear the noise. Does that mean only I can see this furnace too? He rubbed his chin and looked back at it. On top of the furnace lay a pile of fine, sand-like particles glowing with rainbow colors. He scooped them up and placed them into his inventory. Essence, 5,216. Over 5,000 essence. Enough to strengthen a weapon 5 times. Nope. Hyuga Aaron shook his head, forcibly pushing away the dangerous thought. Can't become a gambler. Enhancing weapons did make them stronger, but failure meant the weapon would be destroyed. His weapon accounted for a huge portion of his combat power. If the dark battle blade broke, where would he cry? Next, he took out 3 low-level rings, 1 necklace, the all-attribute wind hole, and 2 banded bracers, tossing them all into the furnace. It wasn't that he couldn't equip them, but their benefits were no longer significant to him. If they could be fused into something better, that would be ideal. He clicked fuse. Please insert 1023 essence. He poured in the essence. The remaining 4,196 essence automatically flew back into his inventory. The furnace made it clear it was fair and honest, no overcharging, no tricks. Of course, if fusion failed, all the items inside would be destroyed. But this kind of shortcut, how could it be called gambling? The lid closed again. The furnace shook violently, flames roaring around it. The lid burst open. A ring-shaped object dropped out. Furnace wind hole, plus 100 to all attributes. So it's based on the Judendu clan's wind hole? Hyuga Aaron examined the item. Its equipping method was identical to the Judendu clan's wind hole. He thought for a moment and tried embedding it into his chest. He had wanted to place it directly on his heart, but the item couldn't be embedded internally. Still, placing it on his chest worked just fine right over the heart. He cancelled the hidden effect. Lifting his shirt and checking with a mirror, he could actually see through his chest to the scenery behind him. In that case, my heart's protected too. Hyuga Aaron checked his inventory again. He still had all the Phantom Troop-related skills. He tossed them all into the furnace. Skills and items with related origins had a fairly good fusion success rate, and the results were usually decent. Bandit-type trash didn't count, of course. Unfortunately, he was missing Bandit's secret, Skill Hunter, and Think's Ripper Cyclotron. He'd originally had the former, but had used it to complete the Phantom Troop quest. As for the latter, Think's hadn't died by his hand, so he never obtained it. After thinking for a moment, he also tossed in Bungee Gum from Hisoka, as well as Flowing Rock Crushing Fist. Please insert 3,333 essence. So even this drains everything. He dumped in all his essence, leaving only 863 essence after the furnace spat the remainder back out. Not enough to strengthen a weapon anymore. He was starting to feel the urge to take a risk, maybe sneak to the front line and loot a few corpses. Fuse. The furnace lid slammed shut once more. I'll be dropping 1 bonus chapters for every 10 reviews. Comment. 1 bonus chapter will be released for every 100 power stones. You can read 90 chapter ahead on Patreon if you're interested, patreon.com/canonbreaker. Chapter 138, Skill Awakening Successful. 1,213 words. Skill, Phantom Troop's Curse. I've never heard of this skill before. Hyuga Aaron looked at the skill book that had just flown out of the furnace. Normally, he had at least some knowledge of most skills, but this one was completely unfamiliar to him. Why wasn't this introduced during the closed beta? If I'd known, I would have waited for the open beta. The closed beta had been incomplete in far too many areas. After thinking for a moment, he decided to learn it directly. After all, it looked like a powerful skill, one formed by fusing so many abilities together. At the very least, it had to be a top-tier skill. Phantom Troop's Curse, no level. A massive amount of information flooded into his mind. After a long while, Hyuga Aaron finally opened his eyes. This skill. In a sense, it was extremely powerful. Every time it was used, a spider tattoo would appear on the user's body. Based on the number marked on the tattoo, the user would gain all the abilities of the corresponding Phantom Troop member. And it wasn't limited to a single use. As long as chakra could sustain it, he could use it 13 times in succession, directly gaining the abilities of the entire Phantom Troop. Those abilities didn't really boost him that much. He already had plenty of abilities, and the useful ones had already become his own skills. Why would he repeatedly borrow the Phantom Troop's powers? Even Hisoka's abilities were included. As long as he obtained Hisoka's number, he could use both Bungee Gum and Texture Surprise. Flowing Rock Crushing Fist had been neutralized in the fusion, it was completely gone. This thing can be used to build a faction. Hyuga Aaron pondered internally. This curse mark wasn't just for himself, it could also be applied to others. For ninjas, this was practically the equivalent of granting a bloodline limit. And when used on others, he only needed to expend chakra once. As long as the recipient continuously supplied energy, the effect could be maintained indefinitely. It's kind of like Kakashi's Sharingan. Except the spider curse consumed far less chakra than a Sharingan, something even a genin could afford. A faction, huh? Hyuga Aaron rubbed his chin. He had no real interest in building a power base. His subordinates killing people wouldn't give him experience, so why bother? But now that he had this ability, he could technically build a faction and have them capture ninjas for him to kill. Was actually feasible. Innocent ninjas, thank you so much, seriously. He closed the furnace interface, and the alchemical cauldron vanished. Only 2 features remained unviewed. He clicked on Sub-Profession. There wasn't much to say about it. The list was even longer than the main professions. Herbalist, miner, tailor, doctor, blacksmith, jeweler, scientist. Every trade imaginable was there. The way to gain experience was similar to normal professions. Herbalists earned experience based on the rarity of herbs gathered, miners based on or quality. As for tailor, blacksmith, jeweler, scientist, those required completing an actual product to gain experience, and each project took far too long. Hyuga Aaron immediately gave up on those. In the end, he chose doctor. He was already proficient in medical ninjutsu, wasting that would be a shame. And in the future, when facing enemies, he could first, beat them to the brink of death to gain the first batch of experience. Second, heal them to gain a second batch. Then kill them to gain a third batch, plus loot. 1 enemy, 3 harvests. Skills acquired, diagnosis, treatment. Medical ninjutsu detected, diagnosis and treatment merged into medical ninjutsu. Medical ninjutsu leveled up. Medical Ninjutsu, LV4, EXP, 0/4000, traits, none.
A vast amount of medical knowledge appeared in his mind.
Hyuga Aaron looked at Medical Ninjutsu with a satisfied expression.
If only all skills were like this, leveling up on their own without needing experience. Unlike the other skills, which stubbornly refused to upgrade unless he personally dumped experience into them.
Finally, his gaze landed on the Awakening skill. Hunter Awakening skill, please input required conditions, Awakening will complete automatically. In the game, there had been a skill pool. By inputting keywords, the system would lock onto the corresponding Awakening skill. But now that he'd transmigrated, that original Awakening skill pool should no longer exist. So would the Awakening really be constructed purely from keywords? Hyuga Aaron fell into deep thought. If it truly worked based on keywords, then what did he need most? First, I need a barrier to prevent enemies from escaping. The sudden retreat of the IWA Nin had robbed him of valuable farming opportunities. That had honestly hurt him a bit. Weren't people supposed to fight to the death on the battlefield? Why did they run? Second, I need to enhance my strength. He pondered further. His combat style had already taken shape, long-range sniper mode, with solid close combat ability as well. What he lacked was mid to long-range sustained combat, but that could be solved by farming more skills. Overall enhancement. He entered 3 keywords. Containment, barrier, comprehensive strength enhancement, enhanced recovery. Skill Awakening in progress? Awakening. Please raise an ability to level 5. Hyuga Aaron. What could he even say? Of course, not every skill was as cooperative as Medical Ninjutsu. Nen ability, LV3, EXP, 0/20,000, traits, none. Nen ability, LV4, EXP, 0/40,000, traits, none. Nen ability, LV5, EXP, 0/80,000, traits, none. A massive number of non-related techniques flooded into his mind. At level 4, he unlocked advanced applications of Teninrin and Inken. At level 5, he unlocked Hard, the advanced combination of Ten plus Zetsu plus Rin plus Hatsu plus Gyo. 2 levels gained, 2 advanced Nen applications learned. But when he looked at his remaining experience pool. Experience pool, 5,080. 60,000 experience. Gone just like that. Over 100,000 had dropped straight down to barely 5,000. At this rate, maxing out Nen ability would take millions of experience. Hyuga Aaron felt a headache coming on. Judging by the upgrade costs of these skills, combined with the experience required for leveling up, he had a terrible feeling. Even if he farmed the entire ninja world clean, it still might not be enough to reach max level. Then he looked at the system notification. Skill Awakening in progress? Skill Awakening successful. Nen Awakening skill, game dungeon. Another wave of memories surged into his mind. Another chakra-devouring monster. Hyuga Aaron rubbed his temples. Activating it once consumed 3,000 chakra. If he invested even more chakra, the range could be expanded further. Where am I supposed to get extra chakra to pour into this? My total chakra is barely over 3,000. As his level increased, his chakra pool grew, but so did the chakra consumption of his skills. Of wanting to become a Jinchuriki. Hunter exclusive Awakening skill unlocked. Chakra cap increased by 1,000. Chakra growth per level increased. Name, Hyuga Aaron. Profession, Hunter. Subprofession, Doctor. Level, LV36, 0/25, 500. Chakra/Nen, 3,600/3,110 plus 1,000 plus 500. Experience pool, 5,080. Ha! Hyuga Aaron let out a cold laugh. I'll be dropping 1 bonus chapters for every 10 reviews. Comment. 1 bonus chapter will be released for every 100 power stones. You can read 90 plus chapter ahead on Patreon if you're interested, patreon.com/cannonbreaker. Chapter 139, long. 1,265 words. An increase of 1000 chakra, did it really change anything? He'd still burn it all in one go and end up completely dry. If he didn't have equipment support, the moment he activated his awakened skill, he'd immediately lose all combat capability. Was this really a buff for him? Or was it raising the difficulty on purpose? Even the enemies would laugh when they saw it, alright? This damn system. Hyuga Aaron sighed helplessly and glanced around. This wasn't the right moment to test his awakened ability. He'd wait until he found a suitable opportunity, and that opportunity probably wouldn't be far off. After all, he'd be fighting here for a long time. Being exposed was only a matter of time. Faced with his long-range strikes, the IWA Nin would inevitably start targeting him. When that happened, he'd give them a surprise. Hopefully not the kind of surprise that blew up in his own face. Hyuga Aaron smacked his lips. Charging in, burning all his chakra dry first, and then fighting. The IWA Nin would be grinning ear to ear. What he didn't know was that he had already been exposed. His Byakugan could see far, but his ears couldn't hear that far. He had no idea the IWA Nin had already taken notice of him. Looking at his remaining experience, too little to do anything meaningful, he decided to level up Fire Release, Unknowing Fire by 2 levels. Fire Release, Unknowing Fire, LV5, EXP, 0/1600, Traits, None. Fire Release, Unknowing Fire, LV7, EXP, 0/6400, Traits, None. Experience Pool, 280. Now he'd left himself with absolutely no buffer. Tomorrow, he had to farm enough experience to level up again. The key problem now was figuring out how to kill Jonin. A kunai appeared in Hyuga Aaron's hand. All the kunai that had been on the watchtower were now safely stored in his inventory. As long as he used them properly, that was a huge amount of Ryo. How was that not basically getting paid directly? After all, he had the god's left hand, devil's right hand, he could manufacture kunai himself. Keeping them served no purpose, selling them made much more sense. Back to the point. His current sniper mode worked like this. Reinforce the kunai with Nin, Shu add fire properties with Unknowing Fire, apply a double boost with Clone Technique, finally launch it with Bare Palm. The result was a high-speed fireball. This fireball was extremely effective against Genin. Against Chunin, the difficulty rose, but the kill chance was still high. The real problem was Jonin. Under normal circumstances, he simply couldn't kill them. And his kunai only delivered a momentary burst of power, there wasn't enough sustained damage. He needed to enhance the power of his sniping. Sacrificing speed in favor of raw power could work. Hyuga Aaron looked at Fire Release, Great Fire Dragon Technique. This jutsu was already a mid to long range attack, and more importantly, it remained under his control. Most ninjas lost fine control once they released a jutsu. Hyuga Aaron didn't. Even after releasing it, he could still manipulate it freely. However, with his current understanding of ninjutsu, it was difficult to integrate the Great Fire Dragon into his sniper mode. But he had a god-tier skill. Brain Boost, activate. With his current chakra pool of over 4,000, he could still maintain Brain Boost for more than 20 seconds. The world transformed before his eyes. The fog inside his mind seemed to be swept away. Everything became crystal clear. Great Fire Dragon, Unknowing Fire, Bare Palm, Clone Technique. And Nin application, hard. 5 abilities rapidly combined in his mind. And among them, there was one absolutely critical ability. Hyuga Aaron's self-developed Nun technique. Chakra Nature Manipulation. This ability didn't appear on the status panel, it was simply his method of controlling chakra. Yet it became the keystone that connected all the skills together. First, use hard to coat the kunai. Because of chakra nature manipulation, his Nun could be applied to external objects. Then, pour all his chakra into the kunai. Next, ignite it with Unknowing Fire. Then use Bare Palm and Clone Technique to launch the kunai toward the target. At that very moment, activate Great Fire Dragon Technique using the chakra condensed on the kunai. Casting Great Fire Dragon at point-blank range. Even gods wouldn't be able to block that. Hyuga Eren named this move Long-Range Fire Dragon Strike. Brain Boost deactivated. He still had plenty of chakra left, but he took out a soldier pill and tossed it into his mouth. No blue potions, this was the closest substitute. He still had plenty of health potions, but those didn't restore chakra. His eyes flickered with lingering emptiness. He hadn't fully come back from the brain boost state yet. That godlike clarity, it was far too easy to become addicted to. He took a deep breath, then slowly exhaled. He'd recovered. After using it many times in the hunter world, he'd built up a bit of resistance. Looking toward the distant battlefield, illuminated by flickering flames, Hyuga Eren felt that if he charged into the Iwa ranks now, he could wipe them out in one sweep. One long-range fire dragon strike, and he'd see if they could withstand it. Hyuga Eren flipped back onto the watchtower and gazed into the distance. On the battlefield far away, he could vaguely see many shimmering lights. They were all loot drops. But no one knew whether Iwa were lying in ambush there. If he went to collect them and a group of Iwa suddenly appeared, that would be fatal. War wasn't a battle of a few individuals. It was thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of ninjas clashing. In such a war, even a Jonin's strength was pitifully small. Maybe elite Jonin could show off a bit. But without teammates, they'd still die horribly. Unless you were a Kage. Only a Kage could truly dominate a battlefield. Hyuga Eren leaned against the wall, hugged the dark battle blade, and closed his eyes to rest. Early the next morning. The Iwa are attacking again. A furious shout rang out. Hyuga Eren opened his eyes and stood up, activating his Byakugan to look into the distance. Countless Iwa were charging toward the Konoha lines. What are they trying to do? A kunai condensed in his hand as he focused on the advancing forces. There were far more attackers today than yesterday. They knew about his ultra-long-range attacks. And yet they still dared to do this? He began throwing kunai. Heavy firepower fireballs. Kunai transformed into fireballs, slamming into the crowd. His primary targets were Chunin, followed by Genin. As for Jonin, those were pointless to aim at for now. As for why he wasn't using long-range fire dragon strike, that thing consumed way too much chakra. One use burned through over 1,000 chakra just to complete the hand seals. He needed to stockpile experience first, prepare for leveling up. Then unleash long-range fire dragon strike. EXP plus 1859, EXP plus 1789, EXP plus 1478, EXP plus 869, EXP plus 789. Experience messages flooded his vision. He focused entirely on suppressing the Iwa. Their assault was ferocious, so ferocious they no longer cared about casualties. As Hyuga Eren watched his experience climb to the point where leveling up was possible, his Byakugan began locking onto Jonin. He would fight to grow stronger in the middle of battle. Long-range fire dragon strike. A far more scorching fireball was hurled forward. And its target was an Iwagakure Jonin. You can read 90+ chapters ahead on Patreon if you're interested. Patreon.com/canonbreaker. Sparkles bonus chapter goals. Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. Chapter 140, The Encirclement and Assassination by an Iwagakure Jonin. 1,374 words. An Iwagakure Jonin was advancing rapidly, covered by his companions. In this battle, they not only had to guard against Konoha's ninjas, but also against fireballs coming from afar. However, as a Jonin, as long as he remained alert, those fireballs posed no real threat to him. Yesterday, the power of that fireball had already been demonstrated. In just one night, it couldn't possibly have improved by much. With full concentration, he continued rushing forward. At that moment, a fireball flew in from the distance, clearly aimed at him. But it was just a fireball. He raised his kunai, preparing to knock it aside.
Right then, the fireball suddenly expanded, transforming into an enormous fire dragon head that howled as it charged straight at him.
Long-range fire dragon strike.
Damn, the Jonin only had time to curse before being swallowed whole by the fire dragon.
In the distance, Hyuga Eren watched as it passed through his field of vision. Experience plus 10,561. So it really is incredibly effective. Hyuga Eren clenched his fist.
This was the first time he had killed a Jonin from an ultra-long distance. Just over the course of this morning alone, including this Jonin, he had already farmed more than 30,000 experience points.
Today, I'll push for 100,000. Hyuga Eren shifted his gaze to another Jonin and began pouring chakra into a kunai. Another long-range fire dragon strike shot toward the distant Iwagakure Jonin. This one was clearly faster than the last. He used Earth Release, instant movement to leave his original position in a flash. The blossoming fire dragon instead engulfed two genin who failed to dodge in time. Experience plus 847. Experience plus 859. It's not over yet. Hyuga Eren's Byakugan instantly locked onto the moving Jonin.
The third long-range fire dragon strike was already thrown. The Jonin who had just escaped danger turned his head and saw yet another fireball rushing toward him. As it bloomed into a fire dragon, he realized that this time, he truly couldn't evade it.
So you're really dead set on killing me, huh? What grudge, what hatred? He chose to give up resistance and closed his eyes. Boom! Experience plus 19,957. Level up. The chakra within his body rapidly recovered to its full state. This time, I can use 4 of them. The corner of Hyuga Eren's mouth twitched upward.
With the newly gained experience, it was even enough for him to level up once more. It could be said that he had fully achieved his goal of sustaining himself through battle. Just as he was about to continue his bombardment, his gaze suddenly shifted to the ground around him.
From deep underground, several massive streams of chakra were emerging.
Konoha's ninjas wouldn't approach him from underground, they could just run straight over.
Looks like I've been noticed. Hyuga Eren quickly understood the enemy's strategy. The fierce fighting up front was meant to draw everyone's attention.
They had dispatched a group to detour underground and come in from behind, directly executing a decapitation strike on him.
If successful, they could even launch a surprise attack on Konoha's ninjas afterward.
But the core of this strategy lay in the brutal battle up front.
To draw Konoha's attention, they had to pay an enormous price in casualties. They're really willing to spend lives. Hyuga Eren raised his hand.
Right now, he was at full strength. There was no such thing as a successful sneak attack. God's left hand, devil's right hand. With his left hand, he took out an explosive tag. Chakra poured out rapidly, and one explosive tag after another quickly formed in his hand, gradually scattering throughout the entire watchtower. After finishing this, he flung kunai in all directions.
These were all the real thing. Trying to play stealth in front of a Hyuga? You've really got guts.
They had no idea that within Konoha's trenches, there were Hyuga branch family members stationed.
To avoid being discovered, they had even taken a longer route.
When they realized they were already close to the watchtower, one Jonin was the first to burst out of the ground, his hands forming seals at high speed.
Earth Release, Earth a Stone Dragon. Countless rocks and chunks of earth formed into a dragon.
This Earth a Stone Dragon technique was no weaker than the Water Dragon Bullet technique. The stone dragon surged toward the top of the watchtower.
Watching the stone dragon rush up, Hyuga Eren's mouth twitched. These guys don't play by the rules. All the explosive tags he'd worked so hard to make. His figure vanished, leaving behind only a substituted kunai. The stone dragon smashed heavily into the watchtower. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions rang out in succession, blasting the entire upper section of the watchtower into dust. Using the substitution technique, Hyuga Eren had just landed when a pair of hands suddenly reached out from the ground. His figure vanished once again, reappearing at the location of another kunai. One by one, Earth-style ninjas emerged from the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
You really think highly of me, 6 Jonin at once.
Hyuga Aaron bared his teeth in a cold grin. With this much commotion, the trench line should have already received the news. As long as he could hold out, that would be enough.
He still had one more chance to level up.
Against 6 Jonin, he wouldn't even dream of a counter-kill. His only demand was to survive. Earth release, earth rising spears. Countless sharp rocks suddenly burst out from beneath Hyuga Aaron's feet as 2 Iwagakure Jonin charged straight at him. Trying to instant kill me? Hyuga Aaron grabbed the jagged rock with one hand, flipping his body upside down.
As he did, the charging IWA ninja's figure suddenly vanished. From the predictions of the 8 trigrams gentle fist, if he stayed there, he would be instantly killed. As he landed, Hyuga Aaron tilted his head slightly. Earth release, rock stealing rod. A stone rod brushed past his ear and struck the ground not far away. At the same time, 2 coordinating IWA ninja rushed in, engaging Hyuga Aaron in close combat.
But Hyuga Aaron shifted to the right.
1 IWA ninja rushed past his front.
The ninja's pupils slid to the corner of his eyes, keeping track of Hyuga Aaron's movements.
Twisting his body midair, he spun and kicked toward Hyuga Aaron.
Hyuga Aaron raised a finger and jabbed upward. It was as if the IWA ninja had deliberately sent his leg into that precise strike. Another IWA ninja attacked from behind. Hyuga Aaron suddenly crouched down. This was one advantage of a body that hadn't fully grown yet.
The ambushing ninja's kunai stopped against the abdomen of the ninja whose acupoint had just been struck. As Jonin, he managed to halt his taijutsu attack in time.
Fire release, Great Fire Dragon Technique. Hyuga Aaron took a deep breath and unleashed a raging fire dragon, detonating right in the midst of the 3 of them. At this distance, once the Great Fire Dragon Technique was used, none of the 3 could escape. Boom! Hyuga Aaron was blasted into the air, his body covered in severe burns.
If not for his high defenses, it wouldn't have been just burns. The 2 IWA ninja, however, were not so lucky.
Experience plus 18,773. Experience plus 19,872. They had never imagined that Hyuga Aaron would use such a mutual destruction fighting style. No matter how fearless someone was, unless pushed to utter despair, they wouldn't fight like this. Earth release, heavenly descending adhesive clay. The air above Hyuga Aaron suddenly rippled as layers of crimson sticky clay fell from the sky, about to crash down onto him. He twitched his fingers. The surface of his body had already been burned to charcoal. He had completely lost the ability to move. All of his skin was carbonized, and even his internal organs were gradually failing. Even if the enemy didn't use ninjutsu anymore, Hyuga Aaron was already not far from death. Unless he could level up. Level up!
I'll be dropping 1 bonus chapters for every 10 reviews.
Comment.
1 bonus chapter will be released for every 100 power stones. You can read 90 plus chapter ahead on Patreon if you're interested, patreon.com/canonbreaker.
Chapter 141, Hyuga Aaron's Great Harvest. 1,289 words.
His body rapidly recovered to its original state, and the chakra within him instantly returned to full. Just before the adhesive clay fell from the sky, Hyuga Aaron's figure vanished in an instant, leaving behind only a kunai that was swallowed by the clay. Seeing Hyuga Aaron disappear, the Iwagakure Jonin showed no sign of panic. They immediately locked onto his position. The remaining 4 no longer attempted close combat. Although they had no idea how he had recovered so completely, there was no time left for careful thought. They quickly analyzed the situation. Hyuga Aaron possessed a close-range, mutual destruction fighting style, which completely eliminated any thought of engaging him up close. Instead, they began relying on ninjutsu. All 4 rapidly formed hand seals from a distance. More accurately, they had started sealing the moment Hyuga Aaron vanished. Earth release, Antlion Hell. The ground beneath Hyuga Aaron suddenly softened and began to rotate. Earth release, Earth and Stone Flow. 1 IWA ninja slammed his fist into the ground. The earth shattered into fine sand, surging toward Hyuga Aaron like a tidal wave.
Mixed within it were all the kunai Hyuga Eren had thrown.
So they've figured out the substitution technique? The method behind his substitutions had already been exposed.
The key point was the kunai. This wasn't hard to see through.
As long as someone fought Hyuga Eren for a while, they'd notice every time he vanished, a kunai appeared in his place.
They weren't blind. Now Hyuga Eren was caught in a dilemma.
If he didn't use the substitution technique, he would be swallowed by the rotating soft earth. But if he did use it, he would have to face the countless waves of fine sand.
Hyuga Eren took a deep breath.
On his back, beneath his clothes, a spider emblem slowly surfaced, displaying the number 11. The Phantom Troop's curse. His figure vanished from where he stood, but instead of retreating, he charged straight into the surging sand. The moment he appeared within it, he raised his fist high into the air. Behind him, the faint silhouette of Yuvajin emerged.
The Phantom Troop Yuvajin's skill. Super Destructive Punch. Boom!
The terrifying force of the punch forcibly halted the endless waves of sand, carving out a hollow in what was like a raging sea.
He tossed a kunai upward. Bare palm. With a fierce slap of his hand, he struck the kunai. It vanished instantly. At the same time, Hyuga Eren used the substitution technique to swap places with it.
In that brief instant, the kunai had already passed beyond the IWA ninja's encirclement, and the substitution allowed him to escape their formation entirely. Within the sea of sand, only a single kunai was left behind, swallowed whole.
Goodbye. Hyuga Eren turned back and waved cheerfully at the four of them.
Waving goodbye while taking out two Awagakure Jonin, if the fight continued, he would eventually fall into a disadvantage. If they refused to get close, and he didn't use his mutual destruction tactics, he really had no good way to deal with them. At long range, he couldn't possibly outtrade four opponents alone. His awakened skill wasn't suitable for dealing with them either, it could even put him in greater danger. Naturally, retreat was the best option. The four IWA ninja tried to pursue him. After sacrificing so much, how could they just let Hyuga Eren escape so easily? But they had overlooked the Konoha ninja in the trenches.
Fong over Fong.
Two rapidly spinning mini-tornadoes charged toward two of the IWA ninja. They blocked with kunai, knocking the twin drills aside, and immediately retreated.
At a time like this, you're not getting away. A figure with a tied-up ponytail appeared on a tree not far away.
Below, the shadow beneath the tree rapidly expanded, attacking all four of them at once. Countless insects had already surrounded the area, completely cutting off their escape routes.
The mission has failed.
The four of them darkened in expression. They hadn't expected the target to be such a difficult opponent. Not only had they lost two of their own, but they had also delayed long enough for Konoha's reinforcements to arrive.
Hyuga Eren landed on a tree branch, two kunai appearing in his hands.
Now our roles have switched.
He grinned broadly. Experience plus 18,797. Experience plus 16,871. Experience plus 19,783. Experience plus 17,847. Looking at the experience notifications before him, Hyuga Eren's smile never faded.
Facing Konoha's encirclement, these Iwagakure ninja stood no chance.
To support this side, a full 8 Konoha Jonin had come from the trenches.
While the IWA forces were desperately pressing the front lines, these 8 had forced their way through with great difficulty. When the 8 attacked the remaining 4 IWA ninja, Hyuga Eren relied on his extremely fast kunai strikes to take their lives at their weakest moments.
This method doesn't count as battle merit. A member of the Nara clan couldn't help but advise him. Merit or not doesn't matter. Hyuga Eren didn't care in the slightest. Because he wouldn't get any merit anyway, it would all be attributed to the Hyuga clan. No. He was Root now.
Later, he'd ask Crow how Root calculated merit. As an organization that wore the same pants as ANBU, Root should at least have plenty of ninjutsu rewards.
Just thinking about it made him angry. Sooner or later, he'd wipe out the Hyuga main family. Hyuga Eren clenched his teeth. Seeing how completely indifferent Hyuga Aaron was, the Nara clan member said nothing more and ran back toward the trenches. The fighting up front was still intense. Can someone help me fix this? Hyuga Aaron looked at the shattered watchtower. Everyone else had already rushed back into the front-line battle. Iwagakura's assault was simply too fierce. They had only taken a moment to come help Hyuga Aaron. There was no time to repair a watchtower for him. Helpless, Hyuga Aaron looked at the ruins before him and stepped forward to pick up the dropped items. Skill, Dragon Roar of Fire. Skill, Dragon Wing Strike. Skill, Requip Magic. Skill, Devour Flames. Equipment, Fairy Tail Guild Mark increases magic damage by 100. Equipment, Phantom Lord Battle Armor increases defense by 500. Equipment, Dragon Armor increases defense by 1000, increases Dragon Attribute damage. Equipment, 10 Wizard Saint's Emblem increases magic capacity by 500. Equipment, Aquarius's Key. Not bad. Hyuga Aaron nodded. He removed his nun armor and equipped the dragon armor instead. He also put on the Fairy Tail Guild Mark and the 10 Wizard Saint's Emblem. As for skills, he kept the 2 Dragon Slayer magic skills. Once he gathered 10 skills, they could be fused into a single Dragon Slayer magic, and even in the late game, Dragon Slayer magic was still extremely powerful. What he hadn't expected was to get Devour Flames. This skill could swallow most flames, absorb their fiery properties, and restore the user's injuries and energy. It was practically a god-tier skill for a mage. Considering these drops came from Jonin, this was only natural. He directly learned Devour Flames. Devour Flames, LV.1 EXP, 0 out of 100, traits, none. The remaining Requip Magic, Phantom Lord Battle Armor, Aquarius's Key, and Nen Armor were all thrown into the furnace for dismantling. From the 3 items, he obtained 3,145 essence points. As expected, good items give more when dismantled. Name, Hyuga Aaron. Class, Hunter. Subclass, Doctor. Level, LV.38, 029, 500. Chakra/Nen, 6610/5110 plus 1000 plus 500 plus 500. Essence, 4108. Experience pool, 116,747. Today's mission, complete. I'll be dropping 1 bonus chapters for every 10 reviews. Comment. 1 bonus chapter will be released for every 100 Power Stones. You can read 90+ chapter ahead on Patreon if you're interested, patreon.com/canonbreaker. Chapter 142, Crow's Prophetic Poem. 1,263 words. The Iwagakure ninjas retreated yet again. When the force on the other side suffered defeat, the IWA ninjas on the front line also received the news at the same time. In order to prevent their losses from continuing to expand, they chose to withdraw. This battle had cost them dearly. Not only did they gain nothing, they had instead lost 6 jonin. The Iwagakure commander was heartbroken. The next IWA attack will be even fiercer, Crow said, standing beside Hyuga Aaron as he gazed into the distance. From here, Iwagakure's forces were no longer visible. Iwagakure clearly had no intention of giving up. The next assault would undoubtedly be far more violent. Hyuga Aaron rubbed his chin. They won't bring Inoki over next time. Right? Probably not. I think, Crow replied, not entirely confident himself. Ino Shikacho are watching the Tsuchikage like hawks. He doesn't have any chance to support other battlefields right now. This generation of Ino Shikacho was the core of the Iwagakure front. Once Inoki appeared, they locked onto him immediately. On the entire battlefield, only the 3 of them working together could contend with Inoki. If he went anywhere else, he would single-handedly change the course of the war. Hyuga Aaron, however, wasn't optimistic about their ability to keep Inoki in check. After all, that short old man could fly. Just in case, a book appeared in Hyuga Aaron's hand. He asked the slightly puzzled Crow, "Want to have your fortune told?" Angel's automatic notes.
one of the abilities recorded within Bandit's secret. When using it, one hand must hold the conjured notebook. It didn't take up a skill slot. However, this ability had one drawback: it couldn't be used to divine one's own fate, only that of others.
You believe in fate? Crow looked at Hyuga Aaron with mild curiosity. Hyuga Aaron looked back at him in surprise. How many ninjas don't believe in destiny?
Under the shadow of war, many people believed that sooner or later, a savior like Senju Hashirama would appear and bring peace to the ninja world once again.
Jiraiya was the most typical example, though he might just have been fooled by that group of toads from Mount Mayaboku.
That's true, Crow nodded.
Root members were required to erase their emotions.
Without emotions, there could be no hope, and naturally, no belief in destiny.
Even so, he was quite interested in Hyuga Aaron's fortune-telling. I'll give it a try. Very well. Name and alias is fine. Date of birth. Blood type. And I'll need to see your real face. Crow hesitated for a moment.
Every root member's appearance was a secret, it wasn't something to be casually revealed. But in the end, he removed his mask.
He knew that as a member of the Hyuga clan, Hyuga Aaron could already see his face anyway.
There was no point hiding it.
Crow's face was utterly ordinary, the kind you'd never find again once tossed into a crowd.
The mask had been completely unnecessary.
Hyuga Aaron took out a sheet of paper.
His eyes gradually lost focus, and on his right hand, the phantom of a ferocious infant appeared.
What is that? Crow stared wide-eyed at the apparition in Hyuga Aaron's hand. No. You're actually doing real fortune-telling? Hyuga Aaron's hand moved rapidly across the paper. Lines of text appeared one after another, and soon, a poem was formed. He handed the paper to Crow. Read it out for me. Crow looked at Hyuga Aaron in surprise. You don't know what it says? The notebook in Hyuga Aaron's hand vanished. He shrugged. I'm not conscious while I'm writing. Crow found the ability fascinating. He lowered his voice and began to read. On the windless plain, shadows coil around the roots of trees. A phantom beneath white eyes muffles the groans of stone. A tongue licks the blade, blood does not stain the hem. False tranquility cracks before shattering. When twin moons alternate, the sky bestows a crown of earth. Stone wings blot out the sun, ants trapped in a prison of dust. A reflection fleeing into the abyss is pierced at last by blades of light. Beneath the shattered moon, flesh and stone lie together. Hyuga Aaron fell into thought. Crow put his mask back on and asked curiously, So? How's my fate? Hyuga Aaron looked at the final line, flesh and stone lie together, then reached out and patted Crow on the shoulder. Eat something good lately. The crown of earth was already obvious enough. Anoki would definitely attack this battlefield, and Crow would die in that assault. And he would die while trying to flee, failing to escape. What does that even mean? Crow couldn't help raising his voice. Several people nearby turned to look. Hyuga Aaron pointed at the paper. Prophetic poems need interpretation. For you, this one shouldn't be difficult, right? Behind the mask, Crow's face turned ashen. Precisely because he understood it, he found it unbearable. The first stanza referred to the present, today's battle. The second indicated that although there would be fighting, there was no immediate danger. But the third. That was where everything went wrong. It foretold that Tsuchikage appearing on this battlefield and crushing it in an overwhelming manner. And the final line was his ending. He chose to flee, but still met his death in the end. Is this kind of prophecy really accurate? Crow asked in a low voice. If Hyuga Aaron had just scribbled something casually, he wouldn't necessarily have believed it. But that twisted infant apparition. It was clearly the manifestation of some kind of ninjutsu. In his heart, Crow already believed it 70%. Very accurate, Hyuga Aaron said with certainty. It had never been wrong in the hunter world. He doubted it would suddenly fail here. All right. Crow clearly made a silent decision.
His figure vanished from the spot.
Hyuga Aaron rubbed his chin. If Inoki really comes, do I have any chance of hunting him? A Kage would be worth at least 100,000 experience points. After thinking it over, Hyuga Aaron felt he should just wash up and go to sleep. Right now, even against 6 Jonin, he could barely survive, and he was thinking about hunting a Kage? He'd better think about how to run away instead. He looked toward the trenches, where many people had collapsed on the ground to sleep, while others continued monitoring enemy movements. It wasn't that Hyuga Aaron didn't want to warn them. The problem was that prophecies required belief. Ninjas might believe in destiny, but if someone suddenly claimed they could tell fortunes, would they really believe it? Just look at Jiraiya's faith in the Great Toad Sage, how much groundwork had gone into that. Ninjas were suspicious by nature, about everything. He had even heard that some people in Konoha doubted whether the first Hokage had ever existed. Hard to say. Still, according to the prophecy poem, the coming days should be relatively calm. I forgot to ask about battle merits, Hyuga Aaron said helplessly, rubbing his forehead. If his merits wouldn't all be taken by the Hyuga main family, he would have liked to exchange them for some ninjutsu. Now he didn't know what Crow had gone off to do, and he wasn't familiar with the other root members. Forget it. I'd better go research how to escape when Inoki shows up. I'll be dropping 1 bonus chapters for every 10 reviews. Comment. 1 bonus chapter will be released for every 100 power stones. You can read 90 plus chapter ahead on Patreon if you're interested, patreon.com/canonbreaker. Chapter 143, Inoki Descends. 1,359 words. At this point, it was impossible for Hyuga Aaron to withdraw from the battlefield. No matter which ninja village it was, any ninja who fled in the midst of battle would be uniformly classified as a missing nin, kill on sight. Although he really wanted to farm some Konoha mobs, now was absolutely not the right time to break away from Konoha. At the very least, he would need Kage-level strength. Otherwise, if he went solo right now, he would easily become a target of the other villages. At that point, it wouldn't be one faction farming him, it would very likely turn into all 5 great ninja villages hunting him down. That would be disastrous. Before he had sufficient strength and confidence, Hyuga Aaron had no intention of facing all 5 villages at once. As long as he participated in the war under Konoha's banner, the hostility of the ninja world would be directed at Konoha as a whole, not at him, a tiny individual player. He could even pick up quite a few benefits on the battlefield. This was definitely not the time to leave Konoha. Still, preparations for escape at a critical moment had to be made. If the battle line collapsed and he chose to run, there would be no issue. That would be forced by circumstances, and Konoha would have no grounds to hold him accountable. He returned to the newly rebuilt watchtower and looked at his more than 110,000 experience points. After some thought, he kept 60,000 in reserve. If anything went wrong, he would have 2 chances to fully restore himself. That meant he still had over 50,000 experience points he could spend. First, max out Unknowing Fire. Fire Release Unknowing Fire, LV.7, EXP, 07s, 400, Trait, None. Fire Release Unknowing Fire, LV.8, EXP, 014s, 800, Trait, None. Fire Release Unknowing Fire, LV.9, EXP, 029s, 600, Trait, None. Fire Release Unknowing Fire, LV.10, Max, Trait, To Be Chosen. Ignite, deals 70 to 410 true damage over 5 seconds, based on enemy level. Enchantment, adds fire attribute damage to any attack. Satan's Flame, increases damage dealt to souls. Hyuga Aaron looked at the 3 traits. Ignite, wasn't this straight out of League of Legends? The summoner spell Ignite that even sets Brand on fire? On some level, this thing was basically a bug. Ignite setting fire to a fire mage, no one would believe that if you said it out loud. Just like how vampires can drain robots, he was really curious whether they drank blood or gasoline. But this wouldn't help him much. Enchantment was basically an upgraded version of Unknowing Fire, but compared to the third option, Satan's Flame, it still fell short. After all, that was Satan, the Lord of Hell.
He guessed it was probably inspired by the protagonist's power from Blue Exorcist. Still, being able to damage souls made it a solid skill.
Most importantly,
this trait would likely allow him to see souls.
In the game world, everything could be a mob. Even soul entities counted as a type of monster.
In the Naruto server, there was a hidden dungeon called the Pure Land. The final boss didn't even need guessing, it was the Sage of Six Paths.
But entering that dungeon wasn't easy.
You needed skills related to souls, plus a variety of additional conditions.
Hyuga Eren directly chose Satan's Flame. Fire release unknowing fire, LV.10, max, trait, Satan's Flame.
A massive flood of memories surged into his mind. The new structure of unknowing fire now included a method for drawing upon soul power.
A max-level skill directly activated Hyuga Eren's soul energy. At the same time, it allowed him to see souls. Hyuga Eren spread his hand.
Blue flames burned atop his palm.
Unknowing fire could still be applied to all attacks.
And it didn't just burn flesh, it didn't spare the soul either.
Anyone killed by Hyuga Eren would be truly dead. Even Edo Tensei wouldn't be able to summon them back. Then could I get double experience? Hyuga Eren stroked his chin thoughtfully. He could test that later. But this is way more useful than unknowing fire. Hyuga Eren snapped his fingers lightly, and a blue fireball appeared out of thin air.
Originally, unknowing fire only added fire attribute damage to attacks. It couldn't independently form flames, but now, it could generate fire on its own.
This is my first max-level fire attribute ninjutsu.
This one alone had taken quite a while, and he still needed 9 more before he could fuse a fire release skill.
Experience. Hyuga Eren looked at the remaining 60,000 plus experience points and felt a distinct lack of security.
As his level increased, the experience gap was growing larger and larger.
During this period, the entire battlefield could be described as calm and uneventful.
The only change was that the once normal fireballs had turned blue. They were more eye-catching now, but not any easier to dodge.
The enemy could only choose to evade.
If they tried to tank it head-on,
a palm-sized blue fireball would rapidly expand into a massive fire dragon, reducing everything to ashes.
Not to mention Chunin and Genin, even Jonin had little chance of escaping once they were caught, and could only die with regret. Yet during this time, Iwagakure stopped launching frenzied assaults on Konoha's position.
Instead, they continuously sent people to both flanks, trying to break through Konoha's lines.
This reduced their casualties, and the ones they sent were mostly Genin and Chunin.
Which made Hyuga Eren very unhappy.
What is this, a battlefield or a children's game?
If you're not sending large numbers, what are you even doing? Hyuga Eren scratched his head and glanced at the slowly increasing experience counter. Experience, 134,242.
This was the experience he had gained over more than 10 days on the battlefield. Originally, he could farm 100,000 in a single day. This time, it had taken over 10 days just to reach a little over 100,000. The speed had slowed to a crawl.
It wasn't that Hyuga Eren was throwing kunai less often, it was that the enemy was sending fewer people. Half a day could pass without a single Jonin appearing.
And when a Jonin finally showed up, they specifically guarded against him. The moment he dared to throw a kunai, they would immediately dodge. No one would take his fireballs head-on.
Satan's Flame, evolved from unknowing fire, also couldn't give him double experience. Absolutely infuriating.
During this time, he hadn't seen Crow at all.
That guy definitely wouldn't choose to become a missing nin, but hadn't the Sarutobi clan commander said anything either? Obviously, he must know what Crow was up to. Only Hyuga Eren himself had no idea. He looked into the distance and saw that there were no Iwagakure ninjas in sight anymore.
Their new trenches had already moved beyond the range of the Byakugan.
Konoha's side still didn't dare to advance.
The main reason was that Inoki was like a human-shaped time bomb, no one knew when he would explode.
Konoha's choice was to hold fixed positions, with no intention of pushing forward. Hyuga Eren raised his head and looked at the sky.
It was already deep into the night. The moon hung high above. "Why are there two moons?" Someone in the trenches squinted up at the sky. In the heavens, besides the bright, familiar moon, there was another round moon emitting white light beside it. Like twin moons alternating. "No, something's wrong," a ninja cried out in alarm. The Sarutobi commander, who had looked up in confusion, turned pale. "That's dust release." A calm voice echoed from the sky. "Dust release, detachment of the primitive world technique." Within a transparent barrier, a white sphere radiated blinding light. The transparent barrier rapidly expanded outward, actually enveloping Konoha's entire trench line within it. Even Hyuga Aaron wasn't spared, he too was caught inside the white barrier. He couldn't help murmuring. The sky bestows a crown of earth. You can read 90+ chapter ahead on Patreon if you're interested, patreon.com/canonbreaker. Sparkles bonus chapter goals. Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. Chapter 144, The Collapse of Konoha's Battle Line. 1,328 words. What the hell did Crow go off to do? Hyuga Aaron was now extremely suspicious that Crow had already defected. Anoki had personally come to kill them, yet that guy was nowhere to be seen. Of course, avoiding danger according to the prophetic poem was also a way of dealing with a crisis. But for those who stayed behind, it was deadly. Inside the white barrier, the massive sphere of light was rapidly expanding. Well then, farewell. Hyuga Aaron's figure vanished from the spot. He had long since prepared his substitution technique props. The moment Anoki arrived, he could immediately transfer away. A small stone appeared where he had been standing. Any item imbued with Hyuga Aaron's chakra could become a substitution medium, only the chakra cost would increase with distance. Floating in the sky, Anoki supported the dust release with both hands and let out a sharp shout. Ha! The white sphere inside the barrier suddenly shone with blinding brilliance, rapidly filling the entire transparent field. Most of the people trapped inside showed expressions of despair. Only a small number of ninjas managed to escape the range of dust release using the body flicker technique. The rest had no ninjutsu capable of getting them out of the dust release's coverage. They could only remain where they were and wait for death. And death arrived as promised. Anoki wasn't surprised by those who escaped. Dust release couldn't interrupt an enemy's ninjutsu. Some jonin, if they reacted fast enough, could indeed flee. As the white light flared to its peak, dust release, detachment of the primitive world technique finally dissipated. Everyone inside was gone. More accurately, they were dead. Everything within the barrier, objects and living beings alike, had been reduced to an atomic state, completely annihilated. If detachment of the primitive world hadn't required a certain amount of activation time, not a single person inside would have escaped. As the dust release vanished, not only were the people gone, even the trenches inside had disappeared, leaving behind only a perfectly square crater to bear witness to Anoki's power. That scale was enough to wipe out a small mountain. This was the might of someone who bore the title of Kage. Anoki slowly floated down from the sky, as one group of Iwagakure ninja after another rushed up behind him. Find them. Kill them all, Anoki said coldly. Many Konoha ninja who had mastered the body flicker had escaped earlier, at minimum, they were chunin. Anoki had no intention of letting those people return safely. A group of IWA ninjas surged forward with ferocious expressions, charging straight into the forest ahead. Find the one throwing fireballs. The others don't matter, whoever's throwing those fireballs must die. I'm going to kill him. They weren't even worried about finding the target. Those blue fireballs were extremely distinctive, very likely some kind of Kekkai Genkai. There was no way to mistake them. The crowd surged forward like a flood. No one was left to stop them now. The one throwing fireballs? Anoki raised his eyelids slightly, not quite understanding what had agitated the people on this battlefield so badly. An IWA ninja hurried over and explained, "There's a Konoha ninja using ultra-long range attacks. That's what forced us to retreat. We couldn't hit him at all, and those fireballs are incredibly fast. One mistake and you get sniped on the spot.
Just one person had suppressed an entire force of Iwagakure ninja.
Anoki slapped the commander on the knee, making him cry out and drop to one knee.
Why were you standing so tall?
Anoki cursed as he floated upward again. He recalled that there had been a Konoha ninja in a watchtower in the distance earlier, and he had conveniently included that position within the dust release.
So that must have been the person they were looking for.
Completely unaware that he had become a thorn in the side and a mortal enemy of Iwagakure, Hyuga Aaron had already appeared deep within the forest.
He let out a light breath.
Covering the distance had directly drained a third of his chakra. Beside him stood one of Hyuga Aaron's shadow clones, staring in the direction of the original battlefield. "Isn't the range of that dust release a bit ridiculous?" the clone said, withdrawing his stunned expression. At this moment, the dust release hadn't fully ended yet. In the distance, a massive white cube was still visible. As the white light flared, the cube vanished as well. "Original body, take care of yourself.
Whatever you do, don't run into that Inoki.
You'll die, absolutely die," the clone nagged endlessly from the side.
"Don't tell me that." Hyuga Aaron snapped back. He was recovering his breath. Why was this guy so annoying?
He wasn't usually this much of a chatterbox. His figure vanished once more. The clone smacked his lips. "As long as you don't start thinking about counter-killing him." The three great illusions of life.
Your phone is vibrating. She likes me. I can counter-kill. Hyuga Aaron would absolutely never miss the third one.
The shadow clone dispersed into smoke. Its main task had been to place stones along the route for substitution technique usage. Now that the job was done, it was no longer needed.
After another long-distance transfer, Hyuga Aaron curled his lips.
He had received all the memories from the shadow clone.
What do you mean illusion? I really can counter-kill after I die. He looked into the distance. At this range, no one should be coming over. 2 substitution jumps meant he was at least 8 kilometers away. But if Inoki doesn't come personally, I could try counter-killing the others. Only gaining a bit over 100,000 experience in more than 10 days, he was unwilling to just leave like this. Inoki probably wouldn't bother personally hunting down a small fry like him, right? He checked his inventory. There was still a retry item left. A god-tier escape tool. Even if Inoki really came, it wasn't guaranteed he could stop Hyuga Aaron from escaping. I can counter-kill. Hyuga Aaron, just as his clone had predicted, fell straight into one of life's 3 great delusions. After all, no one understood him better than himself. Turning toward the direction of the Land of Fire, where another stretch of forest lay ahead, he plunged straight in without hesitation. Soon, a group of Iwagakure ninja arrived nearby. One ninja with bandages covering his eyes spoke up. Someone entered the forest ahead. Judging by the footsteps, it should be a ninja with strong taijutsu. Only ninjas proficient in taijutsu had footsteps that light. It could also be a jonin. The IWA squad exchanged glances and nodded. They were a jonin-led team themselves. If they could catch a big shot from Konoha, it would be a huge gain. As they charged into the forest, 2 more squads rushed in from different directions. Hidden within the shadows, Hyuga Aaron used Zetsu-style shadow clones, watching the figures enter. 5 jonin. 7 chunin. With his chakra completely suppressed, he was like a dead tree, utterly motionless, giving off no presence at all, and escaping detection by the Iwagakure ninja. His figure turned into smoke and vanished. Inside the forest, Hyuga Aaron sat on a tree branch, new memories from the shadow clone appearing in his mind. Only 12 people? 5 jonin and 7 chunin, that's a bit few. He spent 300 essence points to replenish his lost chakra. 1 point of essence restored 10 points of chakra. Very quickly, his chakra was fully restored. Byakugan. Hyuga Aaron activated his Byakugan, gazing at the ninjas in the forest who were steadily closing in on his position. About time. He took a deep breath. 3,000 chakra vanished in an instant. Awakening skill, game dungeon.
Sparkles bonus chapter goals. Sparkles 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. You can read 90 plus chapter ahead on Patreon if you're interested, patreon.com/cannonbreaker.
Chapter 145, Awakening Skill, Game Dungeon. 1,161 words.
A layer of blue light rapidly spread outward from Hyuga Aaron's body, sweeping past countless trees and patches of grass, passing over every Iwagakure ninja in the forest. Everyone could clearly see this blue light membrane, and its speed was terrifying. By the time they reacted, everything was already over.
What is this? What just happened? My chakra is decreasing?
All of them looked around warily, yet all they felt was their chakra slowly draining.
Is it absorbing chakra?
But the rate at which their chakra was disappearing was roughly equal to their natural recovery rate. It didn't count as a real loss at all, which left everyone confused about what kind of attack this was supposed to be.
No, look above your heads, one IWA ninja shouted, staring at his teammates.
Above each of their heads were 2 glowing bars, one blood red, one blue, with a red title label attached.
Both bars displayed numbers.
The blood red bar showed only 100/100.
As for the blue bar,
for Jonin, it was around 10,000/10,000. For Chunin, around 1000/1000.
Iwagakure Jonin. Iwagakure Chunin.
Every single person also had a red hostile title marker above their head.
What the hell is this? Everyone stared at one another's heads in utter confusion.
They looked into the distance and realized that the blue light membrane had formed into a hemispherical dome, covering all of them.
Welcome to my world.
A clear, calm voice echoed in everyone's ears.
This is my ability game dungeon world. This game dungeon has 3 factions.
The first faction is the player.
There's only one member, me. The second faction is monsters. All of you belong to this faction.
The third faction is NPCs, but no NPCs have appeared this time, so I won't explain them.
This game dungeon is formed using chakra provided jointly by me and all of you. Until the dungeon ends, no one can leave. And the way to end the dungeon is simple. Either I kill all of you, or you kill me. Either outcome will end the game.
However, because of faction differences, this is a player challenges monsters dungeon, not monsters challenging the player. Therefore, the monsters' actions are restricted.
As Hyuga Aaron's voice fell,
a glowing ring appeared beneath each IWA ninja's feet.
A powerful repulsive force erupted between them, forcibly separating everyone. Each person now stood alone within their own circular zone. If you want to attack me, 2 conditions must be met.
First, I must enter your attack range, meaning the circle beneath your feet.
Second, I must make an attack on you first. Only then can you counterattack.
Of course, for the sake of balance, the first attack I make on you, no matter what,
cannot take your life.
At the same time, as a proper game dungeon, both sides receive rewards for victory.
If I kill you, I will temporarily obtain your chakra to recover part of my injuries. If you kill me, everyone present will permanently gain my chakra. With that, the game begins.
Although everyone had clearly heard the rules, they still tried to break free. No matter how they struggled, they couldn't leave the white circle beneath their feet, let alone test the boundaries of the dungeon itself.
What kind of bullshit game is this? Who's the monster here? You're the monster. Hyuga Aaron didn't explain the rules because he wanted to.
For the Awakening Skill game dungeon to fully activate, everyone inside had to understand the rules. Otherwise, it would merely be a confinement barrier with HP and chakra displays. The true power of game dungeon was to bind all enemies and allies within a certain range together, until one side achieved total victory.
Once activated, it was a fight to the death. They couldn't get out, and outsiders couldn't get in.
And while the reward structure didn't seem particularly friendly to Hyuga Aaron, there was actually a hidden rule.
If Hyuga Aaron won, the chakra of the monsters that died inside the dungeon would strengthen this awakening skill.
In its current state, the skill was only a half-finished product.
It could only enclose an area.
Later, it could evolve to reshape terrain, spawn dungeon items, and more. All of that required ninjas to die within the dungeon, supplying chakra to upgrade it. Once the dungeon system was fully completed, the awakening skill could undergo a second awakening.
That would happen at level 72.
Which was still very far away.
Level 70 already corresponded to Super Kage tier. Who knew how much experience that would take? Hyuga Eren didn't attack immediately.
Instead, he sat calmly on a tree branch and waited.
The game dungeon was restoring the chakra he had spent. And the chakra replenishing him
was being provided by these Iwagakure ninjas. When the recovery was nearly complete, he stood up from the branch. His Byakugan activated instantly, sweeping across the forest full of monsters.
Although everyone knew the rules and the dungeon enforced a degree of balance, this game dungeon was still overwhelmingly favorable to Hyuga Eren.
With the Byakugan, he could see every corner of the dungeon. As a long-range sniper, he didn't even need to move to attack the monsters. He picked up a kunai, aimed at a chunin, and slapped it forward with bare palm.
In the next instant, he drew a second kunai.
This one enhanced with bare palm, substitution technique, and unknowing fire. A blue fireball vanished from its original position. A chunin was carefully observing his surroundings. The white ring beneath his feet restricted his movement, and his comrades stood not far away.
Are we just going to wait here to die?
He slammed himself against the edge of the white circle, only to be bounced back as if he'd hit an invisible wall. In theory, as an unbased ability, the game dungeon could be destroyed by overwhelming external force.
But his strength wasn't nearly enough. Perhaps only someone like Inoki could break it.
Nen abilities weren't invincible, their defenses had limits. It was just that no one here could exceed those limits.
Just then,
whoosh! A fireball pierced through the trees and flew straight toward him.
It's that fireball guy.
The chunin raised his kunai and blocked it, his expression twisting viciously. They had finally found the culprit. This fireball wasn't nearly as large as the ones on the battlefield.
Blocking it wasn't difficult at all.
At the same time, the white ring beneath his feet vanished.
A sign that he was free.
He turned, intending to help his comrades.
"Watch out," someone shouted in rage. The chunin spun around instantly.
Another fireball had already appeared right in front of him. It pierced straight through his head. The 100 HP above his head dropped to 0 in an instant. The headless corpse took 2 more steps forward,
then collapsed onto the ground.
Sparkles bonus chapter goals. Sparkles 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. You can read 90 plus chapter ahead on Patreon if you're interested. Patreon.com/cannonbreaker.
Chapter 146, Hyuga Eren growing ever more arrogant. 1234 words. Experience plus 1878. Gained 3345 chakra. Above Hyuga Eren's head, corresponding blue and red bars appeared as well. His HP hadn't dropped at all.
Everyone here had only 100 HP after all. They were ordinary humans, not true game characters with absurdly thick health pools. However, his original 7,000 chakra directly broke past the 10,000 mark. This chakra boost was temporary. Within the game dungeon, his upper limit was increased, but once the dungeon ended, all of it would be absorbed into the dungeon itself.
He weighed the kunai in his hand.
The first kunai he threw had only one purpose: to break the restriction that prevented enemies from being killed in a single strike.
When restrictions were imposed on the monsters, restrictions were also imposed on Hyuga Eren himself. Restriction and oath.
That was the true reason the game dungeon could exist.
There were even more complex mechanisms behind it. If Hyuga Eren had to design it himself, he could never have completed it. Using the same tactic, Hyuga Eren proceeded to snipe the remaining 6 chunin one by one with kunai.
3 of them offered almost no resistance and died at his hands.
Experience plus 1789. Experience plus 1987. Experience plus 1878.
A total of 6 kunai were used. There were still 2 others who, despite having only Chunin level chakra, were actually special Jonin.
They dodged 2 of Hyuga Aaron's kunai shots. Once freed from their restrictions, they attempted to help their teammates, but Hyuga Aaron's kunai were faster than they were.
The third strike for each of them was a long-range fire dragon strike.
To avoid prematurely freeing the remaining Jonin, Hyuga Aaron deliberately reduced the area of effect, yet the power was even greater. Both of them reacted similarly. The instant the fireball rushed in, they chose to dodge. But Hyuga Aaron could detonate it directly.
The 2 remaining special Jonin were killed on the spot.
Experience plus 5647. Experience plus 5785. Now,
only 5 Jonin remained.
That was the real main event. Now this is the real deal. Pulling the boss. Hyuga Aaron drew his dark battle blade.
The 5 Jonin were already on guard against his long-range fire dragon strike. Achieving a one-hit kill now would be extremely difficult. So this time, he planned to go all out. After all, this was his first time using his awakening skill. There was no way he could afford to fail. In truth, even if he failed, there wouldn't be time for regret. His figure flickered, appearing just outside one Jonin's attack range. Because the game dungeon was saturated with Hyuga Aaron's chakra, he could use the chakra directly for the substitution technique. He no longer needed kunai or shuriken as anchors. At its core, his substitution technique was simply chakra replacement. In a sense, this was another bug of the game dungeon. The Jonin immediately threw shuriken at him, but the moment they crossed the boundary of the circle beneath his feet, they lost all momentum and fell to the ground. So it really doesn't work. The Jonin frowned deeply as he stared at Hyuga Aaron. The 2 of them were clearly close, yet he couldn't attack the other party at all. This was the first time he had ever encountered something like this. Then it's my turn. Hyuga Aaron kicked off the ground, his figure vanishing instantly. He reappeared behind the Jonin and slashed downward. But only a body of mud was cut in half. Earth clone technique. A pair of hands suddenly stretched out from the ground, trying to grab Hyuga Aaron's ankle. He leapt lightly, evading them with ease. Blue flames ignited across his body. His ears sharpened, and blue fire burned atop his black hair like a pair of horns. Fire release, Great Blaze technique. Hyuga Aaron inhaled deeply and spewed violent blue flames toward the ground. The earth was instantly scorched into soft mud. The IWA ninja within disappeared at once, but explosive tags hidden inside the soil lit up. Damn it! Hyuga Aaron vanished instantly. A technique he often used. Now someone had used it on him. Truly, karma came full circle. Boom! A violent explosion hurled mud and debris into the air. The moment Hyuga Aaron reappeared and landed, the IWA Jonin burst out from the ground, staring at him with an icy expression. His hands formed the final seal. Earth release, Earth a stone dragon. Rock and soil surged together, transforming into a majestic dragon that charged straight at Hyuga Aaron. Perfect. Hyuga Aaron grinned. Violent blue flames erupted from his dark battle blade. His body expanded slightly, leaving faint afterimages behind him. Transformation technique. Clone technique. Demon back. Non-ability. Unknowing fire. 5 abilities layered onto his body at once. He kicked off the ground and charged straight toward the earth stone dragon. The stone dragon swallowed Hyuga Aaron whole. Once inside its body, the constantly grinding rocks should have reduced him to dust. But blue light burst out from within the stone dragon. Cracks rapidly spread across its body, blue flames leaking through them. Boom! The earth stone dragon shattered into countless fragments, crashing to the ground. Hyuga Aaron infused chakra into the air beneath his feet. Using Nin, he temporarily stood suspended in midair. He looked down at the stunned IWA Jonin below. Taijutsu and ninjutsu fusion?
Something like that. Hyuga Aaron's voice suddenly sounded from behind him. The IWA Jonin vanished instantly. Earth instant movement. Yet Hyuga Aaron's voice clung to him like a shadow. I've realized something, I'm actually pretty strong now. If it's just a single Jonin, you're not my opponent at all. The IWA Jonin's pupils shrank. He had even used a clone as a decoy. He couldn't understand how Hyuga Aaron had followed him so precisely and found his real body. There was no time left to think. A flaming slash cut cleanly across the IWA Jonin's neck. Under the Byakugan Slack, any clone technique was meaningless. Hyuga Aaron had always been tracking the real body. The Jonin's head fell to the ground. Experience plus 18,797. Chakra, 24,587. Hyuga Aaron turned toward the second Jonin, baring his teeth in a grin. At this point, he was a genuine Jonin himself. As long as elite Jonin weren't deployed, one or two ordinary Jonin were no match for him. Especially when my chakra is this abundant. His chakra pool had now reached a staggering 30,000, and the game dungeon was continuously restoring it. At this point, even an elite Jonin wouldn't be my opponent. Hyuga Aaron had never been this arrogant before. This confidence came from the explosive expansion of his chakra reserves. His max-level ninjutsu had always been powerful, but limited chakra had prevented him from unleashing their true potential. Now the chakra was no longer a concern. This was his strongest state. He no longer needed to worry about consumption at all. He leapt high into the air, drew in a deep breath, and exhaled violently downward. Fire release, Great Fire Dragon Technique. 4 fire dragons burst from his mouth at once, charging in 4 different directions. All of you, come at me together. Boom! 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 4 pillars of fire erupted instantly. And 4 figures charged straight toward the falling Hyuga Aaron. This time, Hyuga Aaron was taking on 4 Jonin at once. Sparkles bonus chapter goals. Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. You can read 90 plus chapter ahead on Patreon if you're interested, patreon.com/cannonbreaker. Chapter 147, Hyuga Aaron's combat power without worrying about chakra. 1,161 words. 2 Iwagakure Jonin immediately dove into the ground, lying in wait. Another concealed his figure and began forming hand seals at high speed some distance away. But hiding in front of the Byakugan was downright laughable. The last IWA ninja leapt straight out of the ground. Earth release, Rock Fist Technique. Stone rapidly condensed around his fist as he smashed toward the falling Hyuga Aaron. The sound of breaking wind rang out. His punch hit nothing. Hyuga Aaron's figure vanished. Now, instead, he was left suspended midair. However, invisible strands of wind wrapped around his waist, yanking him downward. The blue flame blade slash also cut through empty air. Hyuga Aaron raised his palm and slapped downward at the falling IWA ninja. 8 trigrams air palm plus bear palm. To faggot a divine palm. A gigantic palm of compressed air slammed down from the sky, smashing the IWA ninja heavily into the ground. Boom! A massive palm-shaped crater appeared in the earth. At its center lay the IWA ninja, his body covered in wounds. Fire release, Great Fire Dragon Technique plus Great Blaze Technique plus Great Fireball Technique. Hyuga Aaron inhaled deeply. His chakra rapidly drained, all of it converging in his mouth. Fire release, 9-headed Dragon Technique. A colossal fireball erupted from his mouth and smashed downward like a miniature sun, illuminating the entire game dungeon. At that moment, an IWA ninja burst out of the ground, attempting to grab the heavily injured comrade in retreat. Suddenly, 9 dragon heads thrust out of the descending fireball and slammed downward. Did he really think Hyuga Aaron hadn't noticed the movement underground? What kind of fire release is this? The rescuer looked up at the first descending dragon head, despair filling his face. With that range and those 9 wildly dancing dragon heads, there was no way to escape. Boom!
Scorching shockwaves swept outward, forcing every tree in the forest to bend under the pressure.
Experience plus 18,759. Experience plus 5,897. Hyuga Aaron?
His figure flashed as he landed on the ground.
Weren't there supposed to be 5 Jonin? How did a special Jonin get mixed in? Well, chakra capacity didn't always equal combat strength. Wind release, 10,000 gales. The distant ninja who had been forming seals finally completed them.
During the sealing process, he had even tried to save the Jonin using Rock Fist,
but failed. He took a deep breath and unleashed an endless gale toward Hyuga Aaron.
All the trees were ripped up by the storm.
Countless wind blades were mixed within it, shredding the forest into fragments.
Hyuga Aaron was no exception. His entire body was swept into the air as innumerable wind blades surged toward him.
Yet before the blades could strike, Hyuga Aaron vanished first.
The ninja using the high-level wind release didn't stop. This was an S-rank wind release capable of reshaping terrain.
Once used, it could devastate an entire forest.
The highest recorded feat was someone using it to destroy a mountain. Within its range, no one could escape, but the downside was the extremely long hand seal time.
Not a bad technique. Hyuga Aaron patted the IWA ninja's shoulder. The ninja reacted instantly, spinning around with a kunai. But a blade burning with blue flames sliced cleanly through his body, splitting him in two. As he fell, the last thing he saw was Hyuga Aaron's emotionless face. Experience plus 18,978. Chakra, 37,847.
If it weren't for the substitution technique, you might have actually killed me. He had directly substituted behind the caster. No matter how powerful the technique was, it couldn't strike the caster's own blind spot. And because the jutsu consumed massive chakra, even if the caster stopped, his movements would be sluggish for a moment.
Hyuga Aaron looked down at the ground ahead. Not coming out?
The Byakugan pierced through layers of earth, clearly seeing the final Jonin still hiding underground.
The man didn't dare move. Out of 3 Jonin, he was the only one left. How was he supposed to fight this?
He had tried to escape through the ground earlier, only to find that this barrier was far stronger than he'd imagined. Even the earth itself was restricted. Strictly speaking, they were trapped inside a perfect circle.
There was nowhere to flee. If you won't come out, Hyuga Aaron grinned, showing white teeth. Then I'll come find you. His figure vanished. Underground, Hyuga Aaron appeared behind the hiding IWA ninja, using a transformation technique to turn his body into gas. This form could ignore most physical attacks and also allowed movement underground.
The IWA ninja sensed danger and turned around,
only to see Hyuga Aaron raising his blade, blue flames blazing along its edge. Charging. Hyuga Aaron poured most of his chakra into the dark battle blade, leaving just enough to maintain the transformation technique for 10 seconds. 10 seconds was more than enough. You can't escape. Slash. Boom.
Blue flames erupted violently, incinerating everything around them, soil, rock, and the IWA ninja alike.
Experience plus 18,579.
The ground was burned into a massive crater by the blue flames.
Hyuga Aaron's transformation technique expired at that exact moment. However, 12,552 chakra.
The massive chakra loss was rapidly replenished, even increasing his upper limit.
Hyuga Aaron flashed out of the underground cavity and reappeared on the surface. That underground space was unbreathable.
He'd been holding his breath the entire time, and it was filled with lethal gases.
He looked up at the sky. Victory, player Hyuga Aaron.
A massive line of text appeared across the heavens. At the same time, the entire barrier began to flicker.
The blue dome rapidly contracted toward Hyuga Aaron.
The originally enormous sphere shrank at extreme speed, becoming a palm-sized orb that appeared in his hand. This was the manifested form of his awakening skill.
If no chakra had been stored, the awakening skill wouldn't have materialized.
But now that it contained reserves and was beginning to its internal structure, it had taken on a concrete form.
Hyuga Aaron put it away and clenched his fist. That feeling just now. Fighting without restraint. It was unbelievably exhilarating.
Normally, every battle forced him to calculate every bit of chakra usage.
When had he ever been able to fight this recklessly?
Of course, this depended on killing enemies early to expand his chakra pool. If he'd been trapped from the start, he'd never have reached such a terrifying state. He was afraid he already possessed elite Jonin-level combat power. 1 year after becoming a ninja, he had reached elite Jonin at full strength.
The next step was Kage level. Just now, what was that?
A sudden voice sounded nearby.
Hyuga Aaron snapped his head around.
When he saw the short old man standing there, his pupils shrank violently.
Why? Why was Inoki here? Hyuga Aaron's life entered a critical danger state.
Sparkles bonus chapter goals. Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. You can read 90 plus chapter ahead on Patreon if you're interested, patreon.com/canonbreaker.
Chapter 148, Hyuga Aaron hunted by the Tsuchikage. 1246 words. Hyuga Aaron's body stiffened instantly as he looked at the one who had spoken.
He could practically feel a flashing danger sign hovering over his head, and he'd already started thinking about what to write in his will.
With abundant chakra, he could indeed be considered elite Jonin level. But no one ever said he could fight a Kage. Should he activate his awakening skill again? That felt no different from courting death. Hyuga Aaron told himself a cold joke in his heart.
Answer me, Konoha ninja, Inoki said softly.
A terrifying killing intent burst forth from his body, pressing down entirely on Hyuga Aaron. He was still wearing a mask and dressed in ANBU combat gear.
There was no way to shake off his Konoha identity in this outfit.
Trying to bluff his way through was completely impossible. Would Inoki believe him if he said he was an Iwagakure undercover agent?
The killing intent washed over his entire body.
Hyuga Aaron felt himself going rigid and slowly closed his eyes. Would you rather die than answer? Inoki frowned slightly.
Just now, he had tried to break that blue barrier, but no matter what method he used, he couldn't shake it. He suspected it was a secret weapon Konoha had prepared specifically to deal with Iwagakure.
To better understand it, he hadn't used dust release to destroy it outright.
During his brief investigation, he discovered that the barrier was composed of an extremely peculiar form of chakra vastly different from ordinary chakra. Before he could fully figure it out, the barrier suddenly stopped.
And then, this short ANBU ninja appeared.
Judging by his build, he looked to be only 12 or 13 years old.
Such a young ANBU member. Had Konoha produced another genius? The killing intent bearing down on Hyuga Aaron intensified even further. I've got it. Hyuga Aaron opened his eyes.
It wasn't some noble resolve to die without speaking, he had been sensing the position of chakra outside his body. His figure vanished instantly. A small stone dropped to the ground.
Inoki's pupils shrank, his voice turning sharp. Flying Thunder God.
The legendary technique with which the second Hokage once dominated the ninja world, suppressing the other 4 villages during the First Great Ninja War.
It had appeared in Konoha once again? We absolutely cannot let him escape. Hyuga Aaron appeared in a forest, his face deathly pale. This distance was definitely over 10 kilometers. His chakra had been completely drained, he could even feel his life slipping away. Level up. This wasn't the time to worry about experience. Name, Hyuga Aaron. Class, Hunter. Subclass, Doctor. Level, LV.39, 031st, 500.
Chakra/Nen, 8110/6110 plus 1000 plus 500 plus 500.
Essence, 3808. Experience pool, 207,450. As for the items dropped from the dungeon just now, Hyuga Aaron wasn't worried at all.
Everything was stored inside his awakening skill, he could retrieve it whenever he found the time.
He pulled out a card from his inventory. Consumable, retry G380. Use. Destination, inside the borders of the Land of Fire. As long as it was a place he had been to before, this card could take him back there. The card vanished from his hand. A surge of white air wrapped around Hyuga Aaron's body, carrying him rapidly toward the distance. Safe. Hyuga Aaron finally let out a breath of relief. As long as he made it back into the Land of Fire, he'd be safe. There was no way Inoki would chase him straight into Fire Country. Just then, he turned his head and saw a short figure, also wrapped in a surge of air, rapidly closing in on him. Isn't this a bit too overpowered? Hyuga Aaron's face changed drastically. It was the Tsuchikage Inoki. This card's flight speed was insanely fast, yet Inoki was still keeping up. And it wasn't like they had some blood feud, right? Inoki locked onto Hyuga Aaron, suddenly accelerating as he drew close. His fist, encased in rock, smashed straight toward him. The air surge shattered. Damn it! Hyuga Aaron could only raise his battle blade to block. Hyuga Aaron was sent plummeting toward the ground. His consumable, retry G380, had been forcibly interrupted. Hyuga Aaron slapped several kunai toward the ground with bare palm. The kunai were much faster than his falling body, embedding themselves into the earth in an instant. At the same time, Inoki caught up to him. A transparent barrier formed between his hands. Dust release, detachment of the primitive world technique. The transparent barrier rapidly expanded toward Hyuga Aaron. In just one breath, it would completely erase him. Goodbye. Hyuga Aaron's figure vanished in midair, leaving Inoki's dust release to envelop nothing but empty space. Hyuga Aaron reappeared on the ground. Inoki dropped rapidly as well, forming seals with one hand. Rock wrapped around his left fist as he descended like a meteor. Substitution technique. Hyuga Aaron's figure flickered to another location. Inoki's fist smashed fully into the ground. The earth shattered outward in all directions, the cracks spreading even to where Hyuga Aaron had substituted. That's insane. Is this really something a human can do? Hyuga Aaron stared at the fractured land. The destruction radius was at least 5 kilometers, meaning a single punch had devastated an area over 10 kilometers across. Suddenly realizing something, Hyuga Aaron hurriedly slapped another kunai away with bare palm. The ground was no longer stable enough to stand on. The entire area was collapsing and shaking. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Inoki's strike had literally triggered an earthquake. Inoki looked up at Hyuga Aaron, his body wrapped in air currents as he shot straight toward him. Substitution technique. Hyuga Aaron vanished again. Far beyond visible range, Hyuga Aaron reappeared, his face completely drained of color. Level up. None of his abilities gave him any sense of security right now. Only the substitution technique was keeping him alive. Fully restored once more, Hyuga Aaron suddenly felt a massive shadow looming over him. He looked up. A mountain peak was blocking out the sun as it came crashing straight down toward him. Earth release, ultralight boulder technique. Atop the mountain, Inoki made a throwing motion downward. Hyuga Aaron didn't dare hesitate. He instantly slapped another kunai away, watching it vanish from sight. The substitution technique activated yet again. At this point, he was utterly no match for this monster. This time, when he looked into the distance, he could already see the border between the Land of Fire and the Land of Grass. He had run all the way from the central battlefield to here. Then he looked farther, toward the depths of the Land of Grass. And the corner of his mouth twitched. Inoki was still flying toward him at extreme speed. What kind of grudge is this? What did I even do to deserve this? Hyuga Aaron was on the verge of tears as he slapped yet another kunai away. Before Inoki landed, this was the only thing he could do. Any hesitation at all, and he'd die in Inoki's hands. Earth release, rock fist technique. Just then. Boom! A dull, heavy sound rang out. A shockwave swept outward. Hyuga Eren, who was about to substitute again, froze mid-motion.
Sorry I'm late, a black-clad figure said in a deep voice. Sparkles bonus chapter goals Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. You can read 90 plus chapter ahead on Patreon if you're interested, patreon.com/canonbreaker.
Chapter 149, Finally Safe. 1,279 words. Black armor. A jet black staff that could extend and retract at will. Hyuga Eren had to admit, at this moment, the person who arrived was insanely cool.
The third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, had entered the battlefield. The violent gale kicked up by the collision between the rock fist and the black staff uprooted countless trees, tearing them from the ground like a passing typhoon. Before such a natural disaster, all beings were equal. Yet this natural disaster had been created by nothing more than two humanoid figures.
Crow's figure appeared beside Hyuga Eren. I'm late. So that's what you went to do, you went to get reinforcements. Hyuga Eren didn't know how Crow had convinced Sarutobi Hiruzen to come to the front lines. There was surely Danzo Shimura's influence involved as well. But he did know one thing.
The Iwagakure battle line that had just collapsed was about to stabilize again. And his life was completely saved.
If Inoki had continued the pursuit, Hyuga Eren felt that even all his stored experience wouldn't have been enough to keep him alive until he reached safety.
That old man clearly had a lot of opinions about him. And very strong ones at that. At this moment, the clash between the two came to an end. Inoki was knocked backward some distance, stopping himself midair. Sarutobi Hiruzen planted the black staff into the ground and looked at Inoki with a grave expression. Suchikage, you're truly decisive, personally intervening on the battlefield.
And haven't you done the same? Inoki retorted.
He glanced into the distance, where countless black silhouettes were rapidly approaching, then gave Hyuga Eren a deep look.
Killing this ninja was no longer possible. Why did Konoha always have so many geniuses?
His body floated upward.
Sarutobi Hiruzen, I'll be waiting for you on the battlefield.
With that, he turned and flew away. Fighting Sarutobi Hiruzen here would be tantamount to suicide.
Just look at the Konoha ninjas rapidly closing in. A Kage plus a surrounding force of elite ninjas. That was the formation used to hunt a Kage. Inoki's figure quickly ascended into the sky and vanished. One by one, Konoha ninjas arrived at the scene. Hokage-sama. Every one of them wore masks and ANBU combat gear. Sarutobi Hiruzen had brought the entire ANBU force with him. At this moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen turned around and looked at Hyuga Eren. You're Hyuga Eren, right? I'm not, Hyuga Eren replied decisively. He was still wearing a mask, how had his identity already been exposed? I'm a root player. Sarutobi Hiruzen gave him a look that clearly said you think I'm stupid and pointed at his own eyes. It was pretty obvious. Hyuga Eren curled his lips. If you already knew, why ask? Was he planning to make his identity public? Did root members not deserve a little privacy? When was Danzo going to finally stand up? Report the frontline situation, Sarutobi Hiruzen said gravely, and explain why Inoki was personally hunting you down.
Inoki had chased him all the way here, his determination was obvious.
Hyuga Eren cleared his throat. The northeastern front line has completely collapsed. I don't know how many escaped.
Even if they did, there are still a lot of Iwagakure ninjas pursuing them.
Their lives are in danger. As for why Inoki was chasing me.
He hesitated for a moment.
It's because of my substitution technique. You listen to yourself, does that make sense? Inoki chasing you over a substitution technique? As if Inoki himself didn't know substitution technique? Every single person had the same expression. The only difference was that everyone except Sarutobi Hiruzen was wearing a mask. Substitution technique wasn't just a misdirection technique similar to Genjutsu? Was Iwagakure really this desperate now? Had they lost substitution technique entirely? Sarutobi Hiruzen wanted to observe Hyuga Aaron's expression to see if he was lying. Then remembered the mask. He couldn't read a thing. "Show me," Sarutobi Hiruzen said in a deep voice. Hyuga Aaron shrugged, tossed a kunai a short distance away, and his figure flickered, instantly swapping places with it. "This is my substitution." Sarutobi Hiruzen's mouth fell open wide enough to stuff in a fist. No, 3 fists. Wait a second. He rubbed his brow. "You're telling me this is substitution technique?" His voice was full of disbelief. "That's Flying Thunder God." Sarutobi Hiruzen almost cursed aloud in his heart. "Yes," Hyuga Aaron replied innocently. "If you've got a problem, point it out. Even if you pick bones out of an egg, this is still substitution technique." Sarutobi Hiruzen was convinced that Hyuga Aaron had never come into contact with Flying Thunder God. Probably. Tsunade knew the Flying Thunder God formula, but she couldn't actually cultivate it. And judging by her attitude toward Hyuga Aaron, she didn't seem like the type to teach him Flying Thunder God either. "How did you cultivate this substitution technique? Don't tell him this kid developed it himself?" Hyuga Aaron thought for a moment. Chakra locking. Item perception. Substitution pulling. He explained the entire operating principle of his substitution technique. But that absurdly complex chakra control process. If anyone could actually learn it, Hyuga Aaron would take their surname. Except for one person. Namikaze Minato. That guy might actually pull it off. Sarutobi Hiruzen understood the theory. In theory, this approach could work. But what the hell was constructing spatial symbols with chakra? What was item swap perception? The principle sounded fine, like saying birds fly with wings, so humans should be able to fly if they put on wings too. But in reality? Go ahead, try it. That's pure nonsense. He needed to go back and dig up the Flying Thunder God scrolls. He'd already forgotten what the formulas even looked like. He needed to compare the two. Move out. Advance to the front line. Konoha's collapsed battle lines weren't limited to the northeast. Other fronts were also on the brink of collapse. Only the central camp, where Ino Shikabucho were stationed, was barely holding. When the other lines collapsed and Iwagakure launched a full-scale offensive, this became the final defensive line. If this position fell, Iwagakure would be able to march straight into the Land of Fire. When Sarutobi Hiruzen personally arrived, Iwagakure chose to withdraw. "Hokage-sama," Nara Shikashi said with a helpless sigh. "We were deceived by Inoki's Earth clone. The only people on the battlefield capable of restraining Inoki were the 3 of them. Inoki had used an Earth clone to draw their attention, creating the opportunity to personally shatter the other battle lines. At the time, there were no Hyuga clan members nearby, so they couldn't distinguish the clone. Adjust the formation as quickly as possible," Sarutobi Hiruzen said in a low voice. "I'll personally guard this position." With Inoki personally entering the fray, Konoha currently had no one else who could oppose him. Danzo was still in the Land of Rain, under pressure from all sides. The resistance there was too fierce for him to disengage. The Hyuga clan's main force was holding back Kumogakure. Given the Hyuga clan's foundation, even if the Raikage himself entered the battlefield, he wouldn't be able to break through. Kirigakure was being held by the Uchiha clan, no concern there. As for Sunagakure, the rising star Hatake Tsukumo was keeping them in check. For now, Sarutobi Hiruzen no longer needed to personally defend Konoha itself. Seeing that no one was paying attention to him anymore, Hyuga Aaron found a spot to rest. Check his spoils. Sparkles bonus chapter goals. Sparkles. 10 reviews equals 1 bonus chapter. 100 power stones equals 1 bonus chapter. You can read 90 plus chapter ahead on Patreon if you're interested, patreon.com/canonbreaker. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Sally Fox audiobook.